Welcome to Zen Mind Temple. Tonight, you will discover a powerful secret known to Zen masters for millennia. Overthinking is the fog of the mind, and the present moment is the path home. From the enlightenment under the Bodhi tree to the morning bells of mountain monasteries, these ancient wisdoms have long waited to awaken the weary in you. Over the next 3 hours, let 10 stories flow like moonlit water, washing away the thoughts that circle your mind. Each turn is a breath, each insight a release. Adjust your pillow, let your shoulders sink into the mattress, and feel every point where your body meets the support beneath. No need to do anything, just allow yourself to be here and now. Now breathe with me. Inhale, imagining cool air flowing through your nostrils, filling your chest. Exhale, letting all tension slip away from your fingertips and toes. Breathe in slowly, allowing the air to fill your lungs like a gentle tide rising. Hold it for a moment, then exhale, feeling the weight of your body sink deeper into the surface beneath you. Notice the space between your thoughts, the quiet pause that comes naturally when you stop chasing the next idea. In that space, we begin our first story. It is a crisp autumn morning in a mountain temple. The air carries the earthy scent of fallen maple leaves, their edges tinged with red and gold, carpeting the stone paths like a mosaic of fire and sunlight. Somewhere in the distance, a stream gurgles over smooth stones, its rhythm steady and unhurried, as it has been for centuries. The temple bell tolls once, a deep, resonant sound that hangs in the air, then fades, leaving a silence that feels alive, charged with the presence of something ancient and wise. In the main hall, sunlight slants through paper screens, casting rectangles of gold on the wooden floor. A scholar sits cross-legged on a tatami mat, his posture rigid with the tension of someone who is used to being in control. His robes are fine, embroidered with symbols of learning, and his hands grip a scroll tightly, as if the words written there might escape if he relaxes his hold. Across from him, a chancha sits quietly, his posture loose and open, his hands resting gently on his knees. His robes are simple, dyed in the soft grey of storm clouds, and his face is lined with the map of a long life, each crease a story waiting to be told. The scholar clears his throat, a sound that breaks the silence like a stone thrown into still water. "Master," he says, his voice tight with urgency, "I have come to learn the secrets of Zen. I have studied all the sacred texts, debated with the greatest minds of my time, and memorized every sutra. I am ready to understand the true nature of reality." The chancha nods, slowly, his eyes warm and knowing. He reaches for a small clay teapot, its surface rough and unglazed, a perfect mirror of the mountain rocks outside. He pours hot water into it, the steam rising in thin white threads that twist and dance in the sunlight before vanishing. Then he takes a delicate porcelain cup, its surface smooth and shiny, painted with delicate cherry blossoms, and begins to pour. But here is the thing. The cup is already full. As the tea flows from the pot, it spills over the edges of the cup, running down the sides in small rivulets, pooling on the wooden table between them, soaking into the tatami mat where the scholar sits. The scholar watches, his brow furrowing with confusion, then frustration. "Stop," he says, raising his hand. "Can't you see the cup is full? No more will fit." The chancha stops pouring, setting the teapot down gently. He looks at the scholar, his eyes soft with compassion. "You are like this cup," he says, his voice as calm as the stream outside. "You come to me with your mind already full of your knowledge, your opinions, your ideas about what is true. How can I teach you anything new when there is no space left for it to enter? The scholar freezes, his mouth open as if to argue, then closes it slowly. His grip on the scroll relaxes, his shoulders dropping slightly as the weight of the Chansha's words settles over him. Outside, a bird sings, a clear, sweet melody that cuts through the silence, and for a moment, neither of them speaks. The only sounds are the distant stream, the rustle of leaves in the breeze, and the gentle ticking of a wooden clock somewhere in the temple. This moment, the pause between the scholar's frustration and his understandings, where the wisdom lies, it is the space we often miss in our own lives, caught up as we are in the rush of our thoughts. The endless loop of what-ifs and I shoulds that fill our minds, like water overflowing from a cup. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you felt your mind was truly empty? Not in a negative way, not as if you were forgetting something important, but in the way that a clear blue sky is empty, vast, open, full of possibility. For most of us, that feeling is rare. Our minds are like rooms filled with furniture, cluttered with old chairs and dusty books, with boxes we've never unpacked and memories we can't let go of. We move through life, navigating this clutter, tripping over the same thoughts again and again, never quite able to see the floor beneath us. Neuroscientists call this the default mode network, the part of our brain that activates when we're not focused on the world around us. It's the voice that chatters in the back of our heads when we're driving, or washing dishes, or lying in bed at night, unable to sleep. It's the part that replays conversations we had yesterday, that worries about conversations we might have tomorrow, that tells us stories about who we are and what we've done wrong. For overthinkers, this network is like a radio left on full volume, playing the same song over and over, drowning out the quiet voice of the present moment. The scholar in our story is a victim of this default mode. His mind is so busy replaying what he knows, what he's learned, what he thinks he understands, that there's no room for anything new. He's trapped in a cycle of confirmation bias, seeing only what fits with his existing beliefs, unable to imagine a different way of being. This is the danger of overthinking. It turns our minds into prisons, walls of our own making that keep us from seeing the truth of what is. But here's the good news. Those walls are not real. They are made of thoughts, and thoughts can be changed. The Chensha knows this. He knows that the mind, like the cup, can be emptied, not by force, not by trying to push thoughts away, but by simply noticing them, by recognizing that they are just thoughts, not facts, and that we have the power to make space for something new. Let's take a moment to practice this. Close your eyes if you haven't already, and take a deep breath in through your nose. Feel the air fill your lungs, expanding your chest and your belly. Then exhale slowly through your mouth, making a soft whoosh sound as you release it. As you breathe, notice the thoughts that are in your mind right now. Maybe it's something from today, a conversation, a task you didn't finish, a worry about tomorrow. Maybe it's something from long ago, a memory that still feels fresh. Whatever it is, just notice it. Don't judge it. Don't try to change it. Just say to yourself, that's a thought. Then imagine placing that thought in the cup from our story, the full cup that's overflowing. Watch as it spills over the edges, flowing away from you, down the table, into the earth, where it can be absorbed and transformed. Do this with each thought that arises, one by one, until you begin to feel a little space opening up in your mind, like the cup being emptied, drop by drop. The scholar sat in that space for a long time, watching the spilled tea seep into the tatami mat. Finally, he spoke, his voice softer now, humbler. "What should I do?" he asked. "How can I empty my cup?" The Chanshi smiled, a small curve of his lips that crinkled the corners of his eyes. He picked up the cup, still half full, and poured the remaining tea onto the ground outside, where it soaked into the earth, feeding the roots of a nearby bamboo plant. Then he refilled the cup, slowly, carefully, until it was 3/4 full. "Like this," he said, placing the cup in front of the scholar. "You do not need to empty it completely. Just make space. A cup that is too full cannot hold anything new, but a cup that is completely empty is just as useless. It is the space between full and empty that allows for life to happen." This is a crucial point. The goal is not to stop thinking altogether. That would be impossible, and even if it weren't, it wouldn't be desirable. Thoughts are a part of being human. They help us solve problems, connect with others, make sense of the world. The problem arises when we let our thoughts take over, when we become so identified with them that we can't see beyond them. We become, like the scholar, so full of our own ideas that we can't hear the wisdom that's trying to reach us. The key is to find the middle ground, to be aware of our thoughts without being consumed by them. Psychologists call this mindfulness, the practice of being present in the moment, observing our thoughts and feelings without judgment. It's a simple concept, but it's profoundly powerful. Studies have shown that mindfulness can reduce activity in the default mode network, calming the overactive mind and creating space for clarity and peace. As the scholar drank his tea, savoring its warmth and its subtle flavor, hint of grass, a touch of sweetness, he began to understand. He realized that his years of study had given him a great deal, but they had also created a barrier. He had been so busy collecting knowledge that he had forgotten to make space for wisdom. And wisdom, unlike knowledge, cannot be learned from books or debates. It can only be experienced in the quiet moments between thoughts, in the space where the mind is open and receptive. This is true for all of us. We spend so much time in our heads, replaying the past, worrying about the future, that we miss the life that's happening right now. We miss the feeling of the sun on our skin, the sound of rain on the roof, the taste of food on our tongues. We miss the people in front of us, lost in our own thoughts, instead of truly seeing them, truly connecting with them. The scholar stayed at the temple for 3 months. Each morning, he helped the monks tend to the garden, pulling weeds and watering the plants. Each afternoon, he sat in meditation, watching his thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. Each evening, he listened to the Chanshas speak, but more importantly, he listened to the silence between the words. Slowly, imperceptibly, his cup began to empty. Not all at once, but little by little, as he let go of the need to know everything, the need to be right, the need to control. He began to notice the space between his thoughts, and in that space, he found something he had been searching for all along, a sense of peace, a feeling of connection to something larger than himself. On the day he left, the Tansha walked with him to the edge of the temple grounds. The maple leaves had fallen completely now, covering the path in a thick red carpet, and the air was crisp with the first hint of winter. "Remember," the Chansha said, as they stood at the gate, "the cup is never truly full, and it is never truly empty. It is always ready to receive, if you are willing to let go." The scholar nodded, then bowed deeply. As he turned to walk down the mountain, he felt lighter than he had in years. as if a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He still carried his scrolls, still valued his knowledge, but now he knew that there was more to life than what could be written in books or contained in his mind. There was the life that happened when he put the books down, when he stopped thinking and started being. This is the gift that Zen offers to overthinkers. The realization that we don't have to empty our minds to find peace. We just have to make space for the present moment, space for uncertainty, space for the beauty of not knowing. Let's practice this again as we prepare to move into the next story. Take a deep breath in, feeling the air fill your lungs. Hold it for a moment, then exhale slowly, releasing any tension you might be holding in your body. As you breathe, imagine your mind as a cup. Notice how full it is right now, what thoughts, worries, or plans are taking up space. Now, with each exhale, imagine pouring a little of that out, just a small amount, enough to make space. You don't have to get rid of everything, just create room for something new. Maybe it's a moment of peace, maybe it's a new perspective, maybe it's just the quiet awareness of your own breath as you continue to breathe. Feel that space expanding, growing larger with each inhale. Notice how it feels to have that room in your mind, not empty but open, receptive, alive. This is your natural state, the state you return to when you stop trying to fill every moment with thought. This is the state of Zen. And as we move forward, carrying this awareness with us, remember the lesson of the teacup. The most important thing is not what's inside, but the space that allows for something new to enter. In that space, we find freedom from the endless loop of overthinking. Freedom to be present, freedom to live. Take one more deep breath, savoring that feeling, then let it go, knowing that it will be waiting for you whenever you choose to return. Carry that sense of spaciousness with you as we step into the next chapter. Let your breath settle into a natural rhythm, like the rise and fall of a tide that knows no hurry. Notice how your body feels, now perhaps a little heavier, a little softer, as if the edges of your tension have begun to blur. It is in this gentle state that we meet our next traveler, a young monk whose mind is caught in the thorns of tomorrow. The season has turned since we visited the scholar and his teacup. Winter has wrapped its cold arms around the mountain, painting the temple roofs with a thin layer of snow that glows pink at dawn and blue at dusk. The stream we heard earlier has slowed, its edges crusted with ice that crackles softly in the frost. Inside the temple, the air is warm with the scent of burning cedar, its smoke curling upward to tickle the wooden beams, carrying with it the whispers of prayers. In the dormitory, where the monks sleep on simple straw mats laid out in neat rows, a young man lies awake. His name is Kenji, and he has been at the temple for only a year. His face is still smooth, free of the deep lines that mark the older monks, but his eyes are heavy with a weariness that belies his youth. For 3 nights now, he has not slept. Each time he closes his eyes, his mind races like a river swollen with rain, carrying him away on currents of worry. What if I fail my meditation test next month? What if the master decides I am not worthy of becoming a full monk? What if my family forgets me while I am here? What if these questions loop in his head, each one hooking into the next, forming a net that traps him in wakefulness. He can hear the other monks breathing around him, their soft snores like the rustle of leaves, and envy them their peace. Why is it so easy for them? He wonders. What do they know that I don't? On the 4th night, as the moon climbs high in the sky, casting silver bars through the window onto the floor, Kenji can bear it no longer. He slips quietly from his mat, pulling his robes tight against the cold, and tiptoes out of the dormitory. The courtyard is silent, the snow crunching under his feet like broken glass. He makes his way to the bell tower, a tall wooden structure that stands at the edge of the temple grounds, its giant bronze bell hanging silent within. The bell is a thing of beauty, its surface polished by centuries of hands and marked with intricate carvings, dragons and phoenixes, clouds and mountains, all swirling together in a dance of life. It is rung every morning at dawn, its deep, resonant tone echoing across the valley, waking the monks and calling them to prayer. But now, in the middle of the night, it hangs still, a dark shape against the stars. Kenji leans against the wooden railing of the tower, staring up at the bell. He has always found comfort in its sound, but tonight he is drawn to its silence. There is something powerful about it. He thinks this potential energy, this waiting, beautiful, isn't it? Kenji jumps, his heart racing. He turns to find the master standing behind him, his hood pulled up against the cold, his eyes crinkled with what might be amusement. "Master," Kenji says, bowing deeply, his face flushing with embarrassment. "I'm sorry, I couldn't sleep." "I didn't mean to," the master says, placing a hand on Kenji's shoulder. "There is no need for apology. The night belongs to those who cannot sleep, just as much as it belongs to those who can." He gestures toward the bell. "What do you see when you look at it?" Kenji frowns, thinking. "I see a bell, master. A very large bell." The master chuckles, a low, rumbling sound that seems to vibrate in the cold air. "That is true. But what else?" Kenji looks again, more carefully. He notices the way the moonlight catches the edges of the carvings, making them seem to move. He notices the faint smell of metal and incense that clings to it. He notices the way it hangs, perfectly balanced, as if it is listening. "I see potential," he says finally. "It is waiting to be rung." The master nods. "And how does it feel, this waiting? Is it painful?" Kenji thinks. "No, master. It just is. It doesn't seem to mind not being rung." "Ah," the master says, his eyes lighting up. "There is wisdom in that. The bell does not worry about when it will be rung. It does not lie awake at night thinking, 'What if I am never rung again? What if my sound is not as beautiful as it once was? What if I disappoint those who hear me?' It simply is here, now, in this moment, unstruck and at peace." Kenji is silent, his mind turning over the master's words. He thinks about his own nights, lying awake, his mind churning with worries about the future. He thinks about how heavy those worries feel, how they weigh on his chest and keep him from breathing deeply. He thinks about the bell, hanging there in the tower, free from all that. "But the bell has no choice, master," he says finally. "It is just a thing. It cannot worry, even if it wanted to." "True," the master says. "But neither do you have to worry, Kenji. Not because you are a thing, but because you are more than your thoughts. You are like this bell, you have the capacity to ring, to make your mark on the world, but you also have the capacity to rest, to be still, to simply exist in this moment without striving, without fearing, without planning." He reaches out and runs his fingers along the edge of the bell, his touch gentle, reverent. The bell teaches us an important lesson. The future is just a story we tell ourselves. It has no more weight than the air we breathe, no more substance than a dream. And yet, we let it consume us. We let it steal our sleep, our peace, our joy in the present moment. This is a truth that modern psychology has come to understand as well. Our brains are wired to anticipate the future. That's how we survived as a species, after all. The ability to imagine potential dangers and plan for them is what kept our ancestors alive in a world full of predators and uncertainty. But in our modern lives, this ability has become a curse as much as a blessing. We no longer have to worry about being eaten by tigers, but our brains still churn out worst-case scenarios with the same urgency, leaving us feeling anxious and overwhelmed. Neuroscientists call this future-oriented thinking, and while it can be useful, it becomes problematic when it's excessive. When we spend too much time in the future, we activate the same stress response as if the imagined dangers were happening right now. Our hearts race, our breathing quickens, our muscles tense. Over time, this chronic stress can lead to insomnia, anxiety, depression, and a host of physical health problems. The young monk, Kenji, is caught in this cycle. His mind is so busy imagining all the things that could go wrong in the future that he's unable to enjoy the present moment, unable even to sleep. He's like a person who spends all day worrying about a storm that may never come, forgetting to enjoy the sunshine while it's here. The master understands this. He knows that Kenji's worries are not based in reality, they are just thoughts, stories his mind is telling him, and stories, no matter how vivid, are not facts. Let me show you something, the master says, reaching for the heavy wooden beam that hangs beside the belfer striker that is used to ring it. He lifts it gently, then holds it in the air, hovering just inches from the bell's surface. Listen, he says. Kenji listens. There is nothing but silence, the cold, clear silence of a winter night, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl. The sound you do not hear, the master says, is just as important as the sound you will hear. In fact, without the silence, there can be no sound. They are two sides of the same coin, like day and night, like life and death. He lowers the striker, letting it rest gently against the bell without making a sound. Your mind is like this striker, Kenji. Right now, it is swinging wildly, hitting all kinds of imaginary bells, bells of failure, bells of rejection, bells of regret. But those bells do not exist, not yet. They are just possibilities, shadows on the wall. He pauses, looking deeply into Kenji's eyes. You have to learn to let the striker rest, my friend, to let it hover in the space between what is and what might be, to find peace in the unstruck moment. Kenji takes a deep breath, the cold air stinging his lungs. He looks up at the bell, and for the first time, he sees it differently. It is not just a bell, it is a metaphor for his own mind. It is capable of making a beautiful sound, but it is also capable of being silent. Both are part of its nature, just as both action and rest are part of his own. Come, the master says, setting the striker back in its place. Let's go for a walk. They walk slowly through the temple grounds, their boots crunching in the snow. The moon is high now, casting long shadows that stretch out in front of them like ghosts. They pass the garden where the bare branches of the cherry trees reach toward the sky like skeletal fingers. They pass the meditation hall where a single candle burns in the window, a tiny beacon of light in the darkness. Tell me, Kenji, the master says, what is the worst thing that could happen if you fail your meditation test? Kenji thinks for a moment. I would have to try again. I would disappoint the master. My family would be ashamed of me. And if you have to try again, the master asks, would that be so terrible? Would it mean you are a bad person, or just a person who needs a little more time? Kenji shrugs. I suppose it would mean I need more time. And if you disappoint me, the master says, smiling, do you think my opinion of you is based on one test? Do you think I have not seen failure in my own life? Do you think I do not know that growth comes from stumbling, from falling, from getting back up again? Kenji is silent, his throat tight with emotion. And your family, the master continues. Do you really believe their love for you is conditional on your success as a monk? Or do you think they love you simply because you are you, because you are their son, their brother, their friend? Tears sting Kenji's eyes, and he brushes them away quickly with the back of his hand. He has never thought of it that way. He has always assumed that love and approval were things you had to earn, things you could lose if you made a mistake. They walk for a while longer, saying nothing. The world feels quieter now, as if the snow has muffled not just the sounds of the temple, but the sounds of Kenji's mind. When they return to the bell tower, the master places a hand on Kenji's shoulder. Tomorrow morning, when the bell rings, I want you to listen carefully. Listen to the moment before the sound begins, the silence that comes just before the striker hits the bell. That is the moment you need to find in yourself, Kenji, the moment of the unstruck bell, the moment of pure potential, the moment that exists outside of time and worry. He pauses, then adds, and when you lie down to sleep tonight, I want you to imagine your mind as this bell. Let it rest, unstruck, in the silence of the present moment. Let go of the striker, let go of the future, let go of all the stories your mind is telling you. Just be here and now, in this moment, and see what happens. Kenji bows deeply, his heart full. Thank you, Master, he says. I will try. The master smiles. That is all any of us can do, Kenji. Just try. That night, Kenji lies in his bed, his eyes closed. Instead of letting his mind race to the future, he focuses on his breath, the gentle in and out, like the tide he imagined earlier. He thinks of the bell, hanging silent in the tower, and he tries to feel that same silence in himself. At first, it's hard. The thoughts come anyway. What if I can't do this? What if I never learn to meditate properly? What if, but this time, instead of getting caught up in them, Kenji just notices them, like leaves floating down a stream. He doesn't grab at them, doesn't follow them, just lets them pass by, and slowly, his mind begins to quiet. The space between his thoughts grows larger, like the sky opening up after a storm. He feels his body growing heavier, sinking deeper into the mat. He feels a sense of peace, a sense that everything is as it should be in this moment, even if it's not perfect. Before he knows it, he is asleep. The next morning, Kenji is awakened by the sound of the bell. But this time, he doesn't just hear it, he feels it. He feels the moment of silence before the strike, that perfect, pregnant pause, and in that moment, he understands. The bell's beauty is not just in its sound, but in its silence. Its power is not just in what it does, but in what it is, here, now, in this moment, unconditionally. This is the lesson for all of us who struggle with overthinking, with worrying about the future. We spend so much time in the what-ifs that we forget to live in the what is. We forget that the future is just a story, and stories can be rewritten. We forget that the most important moment is always this one, the unstruck moment, the moment of pure potential, the moment that is happening right now. Let's practice this together now. Close your eyes if you haven't already, and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it for a moment, then exhale slowly through your mouth. As you breathe, imagine your mind as a bell. Notice all the thoughts that are swirling around, like the striker swinging wildly. These are your worries about the future, your regrets about the past, your judgments about yourself and others. Now, imagine lifting the striker gently, setting it down beside the bell. Feel the weight of it leaving your hands, the sense of release. Listen to the silence that follows the silence of the unstruck bell. This is the space between your thoughts, the space of pure potential. This is the present moment, just as it is, without any stories, any judgments, any worries. Stay here for a moment, breathing in and out, enjoying the quiet. Notice how it feels in your body, perhaps a sense of lightness, of peace, of freedom. This is your natural state, the state you return to when you stop letting your mind swing from one worry to the next. This is the state of Zen, the state of being fully present in the unstruck moment. You can return to this state anytime you want, simply by noticing when your mind is swinging toward the future or the past, and gently guiding it back to the present. It's not about stopping the thoughts, it's about creating space around them, about remembering that you are more than your thoughts, more than your worries, more than your stories. As we prepare to move on to the next story, carry this image with you, the image of the unstruck bell hanging in the silence of the present moment. Remember that you, too, are capable of that silence, that peace, that presence. Take one more deep breath, savoring the feeling, then let it go, knowing that this moment, like all moments, is a gift to be cherished. Let the echo of the unstruck bell linger in your awareness as we move forward. Feel how the air shifts now, growing softer, warmer, as if winter is beginning to loosen its grip. Your breath continues to flow like a gentle stream, and your body rests heavy and comfortable, as if the earth itself is holding you. In this state of quiet readiness, we journey to a mountain path where rain falls, and a man's heart is burdened by the weight of yesterday. Spring has come to the valley. The snow has melted, trickling down the mountainside in tiny rivulets that join to form rushing streams. Their waters winddraw with mud and the promise of new life. The trees are budding, their branches soft with green, and the air is thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming plum blossoms. It has been raining for 3 days, a steady, soaking rain that turns the mountain paths into rivers of mud. On this particular afternoon, a merchant named Takeshi stands at the bottom of the path, staring up at the slope ahead. His clothes are fine silk, now stained with mud and rain, his hair plastered to his forehead. He carries a leather pouch filled with coins, but his shoulders are hunched as if he carries a much heavier burden. He has come from the village below, seeking the temple that sits at the top of the mountain. But the rain has made the journey difficult, as he begins to climb. His boots sink deep into the mud with each step, leaving large, messy footprints behind him. He slips and slides, cursing under his breath, his frustration growing with each passing moment. "Stupid rain," he mutters. "Stupid mountain. Why did I ever think coming here would help?" Takeshi is not a man accustomed to hardship. He owns a successful rice shop in the village, and his days are spent counting coins, negotiating deals, and ensuring that his business runs smoothly. But 2 weeks ago, he made a mistake, a big one. He trusted a man who seemed honest, a man who promised to deliver a shipment of high-quality rice at a fair price. Takeshi paid him in advance, and the man vanished, taking the money with him. Now, Takeshi is out of funds, his reputation in the village is damaged, and he is consumed by regret. "I should have known better. I should have checked his references. I should have been more careful." These thoughts play in his head like a song on repeat, each one sharper than the last. He replays the conversation with the man over and over, analyzing every word, every gesture, looking for the signs he missed. He imagines what he could have done differently, how he could have prevented this disaster. The more he thinks about it, the heavier his heart feels, as if it is filled with stones. By the time he reaches the temple gates, he is soaked to the bone, his feet aching, his mind exhausted. A monk stands at the entrance, holding an umbrella made of bamboo and oiled paper. "Welcome, traveler," the monk says, bowing slightly. "The master has been expecting you." Takeshi follows the monk into the temple, where a fire crackles in the hearth, filling the room with warmth and the smell of cedar. The master sits on a mat near the fire, sipping tea, his eyes calm and welcoming. "Please, sit," he says, gesturing to a mat across from him. "Let me pour you some tea. It will warm you." Takeshi sits, his hands trembling as he holds the cup. The tea is hot, its flavor rich and earthy, but he can barely taste it. "Master," he says, his voice tight, "I have made a terrible mistake. A mistake that has cost me everything. I don't know what to do." The master listens as Takeshi tells his story, his face expressionless, his eyes never leaving Takeshi's face. When Takeshi finishes, he expects the master to scold him, to tell him how foolish he was. But instead, the master simply nods and says, "Come with me." He leads Takeshi outside, where the rain is still falling steadily. They walk to the edge of the temple grounds, where the path begins to slope downward. "Look," the master says, pointing to the ground. Takeshi looks. He sees his own footprints, the ones he made when he climbed up the mountain deep, messy, clearly defined in the mud. But as he watches, something happens. The rain falls harder, and the fresh water begins to flow over the footprints, smoothing them out, washing them away. Within moments, they are gone, as if he had never walked there at all. "What do you see?" the master asks. Takeshi frowns, confused. "I see my footprints, but they're disappearing. The rain is washing them away." "Yes," the master says, "the past is like these footprints. It exists, but it is not permanent. It is constantly being washed away by the present, by the rain of new moments. And yet, you carry it with you as if it is a burden you can never function." Takeshi thinks about this. "But my mistake is not just footprints in the mud," he says. "It's real. It has consequences. I lost money. People think less of me. Consequences are real." The master agrees. "But the suffering you feel is not from the consequences themselves. It is from your refusal to let go of the past. You are walking through the present with your eyes fixed on the footprints behind you, and so you stumble in the mud of the now." This is a truth that modern psychology understands well. When we dwell on past mistakes, we activate the same neural pathways as when we experienced the mistake firsthand, triggering the same emotional response: regret, shame, anger. This is why thinking about a past error can feel just as painful as the moment it happened. Our brains do not distinguish between past and present when it comes to emotional memories. Neuroscientists call this rumination, the act of repeatedly focusing on the causes and consequences of negative events. While some reflection can be helpful, allowing us to learn from our mistakes, excessive rumination is harmful. It keeps us stuck in the past, preventing us from moving forward, and can lead to depression, anxiety, and a host of other mental health issues. Takeshi is caught in this cycle of rumination. He is not just remembering his mistake, he is reliving it over and over, each time making it feel more real, more painful, more defining. He has allowed his past to become a prison, and he is the jailer. The master understands this. He knows that Takeshi's suffering is not caused by the mistake itself, but by his attachment to it. Let me ask you something, the master says. When you walk along a path, do you carry the footprints with you? Takeshi shakes his head. Of course not. They are behind me. Then why do you carry your past mistakes with you? The master asks. They are also behind you. They are part of your journey, but they do not define it. They are not who you are. They stand in the rain for a while, watching as new footprints, left by a young monk running to the village, are quickly washed away by the falling water. The earth does not hold onto footprints, the master says. It accepts them, then lets them go, making space for new ones. You must learn to be like the earth, Takeshi. Takeshi looks down at his hands, which are still trembling. But how do I let go? The mistake feels so real, so permanent. The master smiles. You let go by realizing that nothing is permanent. Not your mistakes, not your successes, not even this rain. Everything is in flux, constantly changing, constantly being washed away and replaced. This is the nature of life. He gestures toward the mountain where the rain has caused a small landslide, sending rocks and dirt tumbling down the slope. See that? The mountain itself is changing, rearranging itself. If even the mountain does not hold onto its form, why should you hold onto yours? Takeshi thinks about this as they walk back to the temple. He thinks about the rice shop and how it has changed over the years, expanding, contracting, adapting to the needs of the village. He thinks about his own life, how he has grown and changed, how he has made mistakes before, though none as costly as this one, and survived. He thinks about the rain and how it will eventually stop, how the sun will come out, how the mud will dry and harden, how new plants will grow in the places where the earth was disturbed. By the time they reach the warmth of the temple, Takeshi's mind feels a little lighter. The thoughts of his mistake are still there, but they seem less urgent, less defining. They are just part of his story. The master pours him another cup of tea. Would you like to see something? He asks. Takeshi nods, and the master leads him to a small room off the main hall. The walls are lined with shelves, and on the shelves are hundreds of small clay pots, each one unique, some tall and thin, some short and round, some smooth, some rough. These are the pots I have made over the years, the master says. Each one has a flaw. Takeshi looks closer. He sees pots with cracks, pots with uneven rims, pots that lean to one side. Why do you keep them? He asks. Because the flaws are part of their beauty, the master says. They tell the story of how they were made, the mistakes I made, the lessons I learned. I do not regret the flaws. They are what make each pot unique. He picks up a small pot with a large crack down one side. This one, for example, I made it when I was a young monk. I was in a hurry trying to make something perfect, and I rushed the process. The clay was not ready, and it cracked when I fired it. At the time, I was devastated, but now I see the beauty in it. It reminds me to slow down, to be patient, to accept that perfection is not possible. Takeshi thinks about his own flaw, the mistake with the rice shipment. Could he learn to see it as part of his story, rather than a defining moment? Could he accept it, learn from it, and move on? The master seems to read his thoughts. You cannot change the past, Takeshi, he says, but you can change how you relate to it. You can carry it like a burden, or you can let it teach you. The choice is yours. That night, Takashi sleeps in a small room at the temple. The rain continues to fall, but instead of keeping him awake, its sound soothes him like a lullaby. He dreams of footprints in the mud, of rain washing them away, of new paths being created with each step. In the morning, the rain has stopped. The sun shines brightly, casting rainbows in the mist that rises from the mountain. Takeshi walks down the path, his steps lighter than they were the day before. He still sees his footprints from yesterday, but they are faint now, beginning to dry in the sun. He knows that by tomorrow, they will be gone completely, erased by the wind and the rain and the passage of time as he walks. He thinks about the mistake he made, but he does not dwell on it. He thinks about what he can do now, how he can earn back the money, how he can rebuild his reputation, how he can be more careful in the future. These thoughts are not heavy with regret. They are light with possibility. When he reaches the village, he goes straight to the market square where the villagers are gathered. He stands on a wooden crate and tells them what happened, admitting his mistake, apologizing for his carelessness, and promising to make it right. To his surprise, the villagers are understanding. Many of them have made mistakes of their own, and they respect his honesty. In the weeks that follow, Takeshi works hard to rebuild his business. He starts small, buying rice from local farmers and selling it at a fair price. He is careful, but not afraid. He learns to trust his instincts, but also to ask for help when he needs it. Slowly but surely, his reputation is restored, and his business begins to thrive again. And sometimes, when he finds himself dwelling on the past, he thinks of the rain and the footprints, and he remembers the master's words, "Nothing is permanent. Everything is in flux, and in that flux, there is freedom." This is the lesson for all of us who struggle with overthinking about the past. We cannot change what has happened, but we can change how we hold it. We can let it weigh us down, or we can let it teach us. We can carry it like a burden, or we can let it wash away, making space for new experiences, new growth, new life. Let's practice this together, now. Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it for a moment, then exhale slowly through your mouth. As you breathe, bring to mind a mistake you have made, a regret from your past. It might be something small, or something that feels life-changing. Whatever it is, see it clearly, but without judgment. Now, imagine that this regret is a footprint in the mud. Notice how it looks, how it feels. Notice the emotions that arise: shame, sadness, anger. Let yourself feel them, but do not get lost in them. Now, imagine rain beginning to fall gentle at first, then growing stronger. Watch as the rain falls on your footprint, softening the edges, washing away the details. Feel the weight of the regret beginning to lift as the rain carries it away. Notice how the earth beneath the footprint remains strong and resilient, ready to receive new steps, new experiences. This is your heart, your spirit strong, resilient, capable of healing and growth. As the rain continues to fall, watch as the footprint disappears completely, leaving no trace behind. This is not to say that the mistake never happened, but that it no longer defines you. It is part of your journey, but not the destination. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, let go of any remaining attachment to this regret. Feel the freedom that comes with letting go, the lightness that comes with releasing the past. This is the power of acceptance, the ability to acknowledge what has happened, learn from it, and then let it go. It is not about forgetting. It is about forgiving. Forgiving yourself, forgiving others, forgiving life itself for being imperfect. As we prepare to move on to the next story, carry this image with you, the image of rain washing away footprints, of the past being released, of the present moment being fresh and new. Remember that you have the power to let go, to start again, to create a new path with each step. Take one more deep breath, savoring the feeling of release, then let it go, knowing that each moment is an opportunity to begin again. Let the feeling of release from the rain-washed footprints stay with you as we step into the next chapter. Notice how your breath flows smoothly now, like a river finding its natural course, and how your body feels open and receptive, as if each cell has softened into the present moment. It is in this gentle state of openness that we meet a woman whose mind is clouded by the judgments of others, and a mirror that holds the key to her freedom. Summer has arrived in the valley, bringing with it long, lazy days and warm, starry nights. The temple gardens are in full bloom, with peonies and lotus flowers painting the landscape in vibrant hues of pink and white. The air is thick with the sweet scent of jasmine, and the sound of crickets fills the evening, their chirping a constant, soothing rhythm. In a small cottage at the edge of the village, a young woman named Hannah sits in front of a bronze mirror, her eyebrow furrowed in concentration. The mirror is an antique, passed down through generations in her family, its surface polished to a high shine, though faint scratches mar its perfection, like the memories of a long life. Hannah stares at her reflection, her eyes scanning every inch of her face, her slightly crooked nose, her full lips, the mole on her left cheek. "What do you see?" she asks the mirror, as if it might answer. "Do you see what they see?" They are the villagers, the women who whisper behind her back as she walks through the market, the men who laugh a little too loudly when she passes by. "She's too quiet," they say. "She's too serious. She's not like the other girls." Hannah has heard these words so many times that they echo in her head even when no one is speaking. They have become a part of her, a heavy cloak that she wears even in the privacy of her own home. It wasn't always this way. As a child, Hannah was carefree, spending her days exploring the woods outside the village, collecting wildflowers and chasing fireflies. But as she grew older, she became more aware of the eyes of others, more sensitive to their opinions. She began to worry about how she looked, how she spoke, how she acted. She began to filter every thought, every word, every gesture through the lens of what others might think. I should smile more. I should talk more. I should be more like Yuki, who is always laughing, always surrounded by friends. These thoughts have become a prison, and Hannah is both the prisoner and the jailer. She avoids social gatherings, preferring to stay in her cottage where she can't hear the whispers, can't see the stares. But even here, she can't escape the judgment because it has become a part of her own mind. One afternoon, as Hannah sits stitching a kimono, her mind replaying a conversation she had with a village woman. "That morning you're so quiet, Hannah. Are you sure you're feeling well?" She decides she can't take it anymore. She packs a small bag, puts on her straw hat, and sets off toward the mountain temple. She has heard stories of a wise old nun who lives there, a woman who has spent decades studying the teachings of Zen. Maybe, Hannah thinks, she can help. The journey to the temple takes longer than Hannah expects. The sun beats down on her, and by the time she reaches the gates, her clothes are soaked with sweat, her feet are blistered. A young monk greets her, his smile warm and welcoming. "I'm looking for the old nun," Hannah says, her voice trembling slightly. "I've heard she is very wise." The monk nods. She is in the garden, tending to the lotus flowers. Follow me. Hannah follows the monk through the temple grounds, her eyes wide with wonder. She has never been to the temple before, and its beauty takes her breath away. The intricate carvings on the wooden buildings, the colorful paintings of gods and goddesses, the peaceful pond where lotus flowers float like small, perfect islands. In the garden, an old nun kneels beside a bed of lotus flowers, her hands gently removing weeds from the soil. She is small, with a face lined with wrinkles that tell the story of a long life, and her hair is white as snow, pulled back in a simple bun. She looks up as Hannah and the monk approach, her eyes bright and clear, like a child's. "Welcome, child," she says, her voice soft but strong, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "I have been expecting you." Hannah is surprised. "You have?" The nun smiles. "The wind brings many messages. Sit with me." Hannah kneels beside the nun, the soft grass cushioning her tired legs. For a moment, neither of them speaks. They just listen to the sound of the wind in the trees, the buzz of bees in the flowers, the distant laughter of children playing in the temple courtyard. Finally, Hannah takes a deep breath and begins to tell her story, the whispers, the stares, the way she feels trapped by the opinions of others. As she speaks, she feels tears welling in her eyes, and she wipes them away quickly, embarrassed. "I just want to be free," she says, her voice breaking. "Free from what they think of me. Free from what I think of me." The nun listens quietly, her eyes never leaving Hannah's face. When Hannah finishes, the nun stands up, brushing dirt from her robes. "Come with me," she says. She leads Hannah to a small room at the back of the temple. A simple space with a wooden floor and a single window that looks out onto the garden. On a small table in the center of the room sits a bronze mirror, similar to Hannah's but much older, its surface covered in a thin layer of dust. The nun picks up the mirror and wipes it gently with a soft cloth, revealing its shiny surface. "Look into this mirror," she says, handing it to Hannah. Hannah takes the mirror and looks into it. She sees her own reflection, her worried eyes, her furrowed brow, the mole on her left cheek. "I see myself," she says. The nun nods. "And what do you think of what you see?" Hannah hesitates. I think I'm not good enough. I think I should be different." The nun takes the mirror from Hannah and holds it up, but this time she turns it so that it faces the wall. "Now what do you see?" she asks. Hannah looks. "Nothing. Just the wall." "Ah," the nun says, smiling. "But the mirror is still a mirror, is it not? It does not stop being a mirror just because it is not reflecting something. Its nature is to reflect, but its value is not in what it reflects. It is in the mirror itself." She hands the mirror back to Hannah. "You are like this mirror, Hannah. You have the capacity to reflect the opinions of others, but you are not defined by those reflections. You are not what they think of you. You are not even what you think of you. You are just you." Hannah frowns, confused. "But what does that mean? If I'm not what others think of me, and I'm not what I think of me, then who am I?" The nun gestures toward the window, where a butterfly is fluttering from flower to flower. "What is the butterfly?" she asks. "Is it what others think of it? Is it what it thinks of itself? No, it is just a butterfly doing what butterflies do. It does not worry about being a better butterfly. It does not compare itself to other butterflies. It just is." She turns back to Hannah, her eyes soft with compassion. "You are like the butterfly, Hannah. You are like the mirror. You exist in this moment, just as you are, and that is enough." The Opinions of others are just reflections. They come and go, like clouds in the sky. They do not change the essence of who you are. This is a truth that modern psychology has explored in depth. Our sense of self is largely constructed from the feedback we receive from others, a phenomenon psychologists call the looking glass self. We develop our self-image based on how we believe others perceive us, and this image can be both positive and negative. For Hannah, this looking glass self has become a source of suffering. She has internalized the negative judgments of others, allowing them to shape her own self-perception. This is a common pattern in overthinkers who often ruminate on the opinions of others, magnifying them and allowing them to define their sense of worth. Neuroscientists have found that the brain processes social rejection in the same way it processes physical pain, activating the same neural pathways. This is why the whispers of the villagers feel so hurtful to Hannah. Her brain is interpreting them as a threat to her survival, triggering a stress response that leaves her feeling anxious and defensive. The old nun understands this on a deep level. She knows that Hannah's suffering comes not from the opinions of others, but from her attachment to them. She knows that Hannah has mistaken the reflections in the mirror for the mirror itself. "Let me show you something else," the nun says, leading Hannah back outside to the garden. She points to a lotus flower floating on the pond. "Look at the lotus, Hannah. It grows in muddy water, but it is not stained by the mud. It rises above it, pure and beautiful. You must learn to be like the lotus." Hannah looks at the lotus, its petals, white and unblemished, even though its roots are buried in the muck at the bottom of the pond. "But how?" she asks. "How do I rise above the mud of others' opinions?" The nun sits down on a stone bench beside the pond, and Hannah sits beside her. "You do it by recognizing that the mud is not you," the nun says. "The opinions of others are like the mud. They are part of the world around you, but they are not part of you. You can acknowledge them, but you do not have to absorb them." She picks up a small stone and drops it into the pond. Ripples spread out from the point where the stone hits the water, distorting the reflection of the lotus. "See that?" she says. "The ripples distort the reflection, but they do not change the flower itself. The same is true for the opinions of others. They may distort your perception of yourself, but they do not change who you are." Hannah thinks about this as she watches the ripples fade, the reflection of the lotus becoming clear again. She thinks about the villagers' whispers, how they have distorted her perception of herself, making her see flaws where there are none, making her feel unworthy when she is not. "For many years I struggled with the same thing," the nun says, surprising Hannah. "When I first came to the temple, I was young and insecure. I worried constantly about what the other nuns thought of me, whether I was meditating correctly, whether I was chanting loudly enough, whether I was worthy of being here." She smiles, a faraway look in her eyes. "Then one day, my teacher gave me this mirror," she says, touching the bronze mirror that hangs around her neck. "She told me, this mirror reflects what is in front of it, but it does not hold on to the reflection. It lets it go, making space for the next thing. Be like this mirror." Hannah reaches up to touch her own mirror, which hangs at her waist. "So, the secret is to not care what others think?" she asks. "No," the nun says, shaking her head. "That is not the secret. The secret is to care, but not to be controlled. To acknowledge the opinions of others, but to recognize that they are just opinions, not truths. To listen, but to trust your own heart more." She stands up, stretching her old bones. "Come, let's make tea. I think you have much to consider." as they sit in the nun's small cottage, sipping green tea with a hint of ginger. Hannah's mind feels clearer than it has in years. The weight of the villagers' opinions still lingers, but it feels lighter, less oppressive. She realizes that she has been giving away her power, allowing others to define her sense of self. She realizes that she has been so busy worrying about what others think of her that she has forgotten to ask what she thinks of herself. That night, Hannah sleeps in a small room at the temple, her dreams filled with mirrors and lotus flowers. In the morning, she wakes feeling refreshed. A sense of peace she hasn't felt in a long time settled in her chest. Before she leaves, the nun gives her a small gift, a lotus flower, pressed between the pages of a book of Zen teachings. When you feel troubled by the opinions of others, the nun says, "Look at this flower. Remember that you are like it, pure, beautiful, and unblemished by the mud around you." Hannah bows deeply, tears of gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you," she says. "I will never forget your words." As Hannah walks back to the village, she feels different. She notices the beauty of the world around her, the way the sunlight filters through the trees, the way the birds sing, the way the flowers bloomed for the first time in a long time. She feels a part of it, not separate from it. When she passes the villagers, she hears their whispers, but they don't sting as they used to. She meets their eyes and smiles, a genuine smile, not one forced for their benefit. Some of them look surprised, but others smile back. That evening, as Hannah sits in front of her bronze mirror, she looks at her reflection again. She sees the same face, the slightly crooked nose, the full lips, the mole on her left cheek, but it looks different to her now. It looks like her face, not a collection of flaws to be judged. She picks up the pressed lotus flower and places it beside the mirror. "I see you," she says to her reflection, "and you are enough." This is the lesson for all of us who struggle with the opinions of others, who allow the judgments of the world to shape our sense of self. We are not the reflections in the mirror of others' minds. We are the mirror itself, capable of reflecting, but not defined by what we reflect. We are enough, just as we are, in this moment, without needing to be anything else. Let's practice this together, now. Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it for a moment, then exhale slowly through your mouth as you breathe. Bring to mind a judgment that you have internalized, something someone has said about you, something you believe about yourself because of the opinions of others. It might be something like, "I'm not smart enough," or "I'm not good enough," or "I'm not worthy of love." Now, imagine that this judgment is a reflection in a mirror. See it clearly, but recognize that it is just a reflection, not the truth. Now, imagine turning the mirror away so that it no longer reflects this judgment. What do you see now? You see the mirror itself, plain, simple, unadorned. This is your true self. Beneath all the reflections, all the judgments, all the stories, notice how it feels to connect with this true self, this essence of who you are, beyond the opinions of others. It might feel like a sense of peace, a sense of freedom, a sense of wholeness. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, let go of any attachment to the judgment, to the reflection. Feel it floating away, like a leaf on a stream, carried away by the current. This is your birthright, to be free from the judgments of others, to be free from the judgments of yourself. This is the state of Zen, the state of being who you are, without apology, without explanation, without fear. As we prepare to move on to the next story, carry this image with you, the image of the mirror, reflecting but not holding, and the true self beneath the reflections. Remember that you are enough, just as you are, in this moment, and always. Take one more deep breath, savoring the feeling of connection to your true self. Then let it go, knowing that this connection is always there, waiting for you to return to it. Carry the quiet certainty of the mirror's truth with you as we turn to the next chapter. Let your breath settle into the rhythm of the earth's own pulse, slow, steady, unforced. Notice how your body rests now, as if each muscle has learned to soften into the support beneath you, no longer needing to prove or protect. It is in this state of gentle surrender that we meet a farmer whose hands are calloused from gripping too tightly, and a bamboo basket that holds the wisdom of letting go. Autumn has brushed the valley with its golden hand. The rice fields glow like oceans of amber under the sun, their weighty stalks bowing in unison to the wind's soft commands. The air carries the dry, sweet scent of ripe grain and burning straw. And in the evenings, the cricket's song fades into the cooler air, making way for the hoot of owls and the rustle of fallen leaves. In one such field, a farmer named Hiroshi bends to inspect his crop, his brow furrowed with attention that has become as familiar to him as the calluses on his palms. His rice is thriving plump, healthy, ready for harvest in a matter of weeks, and yet he cannot find peace. His mind races through a litany of worries, each one sprouting like a weed from the fertile soil of his anxiety. What if it rains too much and the rice rots? What if a storm comes and flattens the fields? What if the price of rice drops this year and all my work is for nothing? What if the gods are angry with me and send a plague of insects? Hiroshi has always been this way, meticulous, careful, determined to control every aspect of his life. As a boy, he would count the grains of rice in his bowl to ensure he wasn't being shortchanged. As a young man, he mapped out his fields with such precision that his neighbors joked he measured the distance between each stalk. Now, as a man in his 40s, his need for control has grown into an obsession, a gnawing hunger that no amount of planning can satisfy. He spends his nights lying awake, replaying worst-case scenarios in his mind, and his days pacing the fields, checking and rechecking, adjusting and readjusting. He has forgotten how to rest, how to trust, how to simply be with what is. His wife, Miko, worries about him. "You are wearing yourself thin," she says, placing a hand on his arm as he prepares to head out to the fields before dawn. The rice will grow whether you watch it or not. But Hiroshi cannot hear her. His mind is a cage, and he is both the prisoner and the guard, patrolling the bars of his own thoughts. One morning, after a particularly restless night spent imagining locusts devouring his crop, one leaf at a time, Hiroshi decides to seek help. He has heard of a Zen master who lives in a small hermitage at the edge of the forest, a man who is said to have a gift for calming troubled minds. Perhaps he can teach me how to protect my fields, Hiroshi thinks, grabbing his straw hat and heading toward the woods. The hermitage is a simple structure, little more than a thatched roof and 4 walls, nestled between 2 ancient oak trees. Smoke curls from its stone chimney, carrying the scent of wild mushrooms and miso soup. Outside, an old man sits on a wooden bench, whittling a piece of bamboo into a thin, flexible strip. He looks up as Hiroshi approaches, his eyes crinkled, with a smile that seems to hold the wisdom of ages. "Welcome, farmer," he says, setting aside his whittling. "I sense you carry a heavy burden." Hiroshi is taken aback. He had planned to explain his situation, to ask for advice on protecting his crop. But the old man seems to see straight through him. "I do," he admits, sitting down on the bench across from the Zen messenger. "I worry about my rice. There are so many things that could go wrong." and I don't know how to stop them. The Zen Master nods, picking up his bamboo strip and beginning to weave it into a basket, his fingers moving with a slow, deliberate rhythm, over and under, over and under. Tell me, he says, what do you think you can control? Hiroshi leans forward, eager to explain. I can build better drainage to prevent flooding. I can set up nets to keep birds away. I can pray to the gods, make offerings. I can. The Zen Master holds up a hand, stopping him. And have you ever tried to control the rain? Hiroshi frowns. Of course not. No one can control the rain. The wind, the Zen Master asks. No. The price of rice in the market. Hiroshi shakes his head. No. Then why do you torture yourself with trying to control what you cannot? The Zen Master says, his voice gentle but firm. You are like a man trying to hold water in his fist. No matter how tightly you grip, it will slip through your fingers. He holds up the bamboo basket he has been weaving, a simple, elegant thing with wide gaps between the strips. Help me finish this, he says, passing Hiroshi a length of bamboo. Then we will go to the stream. Hiroshi hesitates, confused, but something in the Zen Master's calm demeanor compels him to obey. He takes the bamboo strip and begins to weave, his hands clumsy at first, but gradually finding a rhythm. As he works, he feels a strange sense of peace settle over him, the repetitive motion, the focus on the task at hand, the sound of the wind in the trees. For a moment, his worries fade, replaced by the simple pleasure of creation. When the basket is finished, the Zen Master stands up. Come, he says. We need water for tea. They walk to a small stream that winds through the forest, its water clear and cold, rushing over smooth stones. The Zen Master hands Hiroshi the bamboo basket. Fill it with water, he says. Hiroshi stares at him, incredulous. But this basket has holes. The water will just flow out. Nevertheless, the Zen Master says, smiling. Fill it. Sighing, Hiroshi bends down and dips the basket into the stream. Water rushes in, then immediately begins to flow out through the gaps, leaving nothing but a few drops clinging to the bamboo strips. He tries again, pressing the basket deeper into the water, holding it there longer, but the result is the same. It's impossible, he says, frustration edging his voice. This basket can't hold water. It's not meant to. Ah, the Zen Master says, his eyes shining. And yet you try to hold on to things that are even more fleeting: control, certainty, security. You think if you grip tightly enough, if you plan carefully enough, you can make life behave as you wish. But life is like water, Hiroshi. It is meant to flow, to change, to move. You cannot contain it, no matter how hard you try. Hiroshi stands there, the empty basket in his hands, the cool water lapping at his ankles. His mind races, but this time, it is not with worries of locusts or storms. It is with the Zen Master's words, which echo like a bell in the quiet of the forest. For years, I have been trying to hold water in a bamboo basket, he says, finally, his voice quiet with realization. The Zen Master nods. And how has that worked for you? I am exhausted, Hiroshi admits. I haven't slept well in months. I snap at my wife, my children. I can't enjoy the good things because I'm too busy worrying about the bad. The Zen Master places a hand on Hiroshi's shoulder. Let me tell you a secret, he says. The art of living is not in controlling the water, but in learning to flow with it. It is not in holding on, but in letting go. This is a truth that modern psychology has validated through decades of research. Our need for control is deeply rooted in our biological ancestors who were able to predict and influence their environment, were more likely to survive and reproduce. But in our modern world, this drive has become distorted, leading to what psychologists call control issues, an excessive need to control people, situations, and outcomes. This need for control activates the brain's threat detection system, triggering the release of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Over time, this chronic stress can lead to anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, and a weakened immune system. It also impairs our ability to think clearly, as the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thought, becomes hijacked by the amygdala, our emotional alarm system. Hiroshi's brain is stuck in this threat mode. His constant worrying about the future is keeping his stress response in a state of perpetual activation, leaving him exhausted and irritable. He is caught in a feedback loop. The more he tries to control, the more anxious he feels when he can't. The more anxious he feels, the more he tries to control. The Zen Master's bamboo basket is a perfect metaphor for this cycle. Just as the basket cannot hold water, Hiroshi cannot control the uncontrollable, and his attempts to do so are draining him of energy and joy. "Let's try something," the Zen Master says, taking the basket from Hiroshi and dipping it into the stream again. This time, instead of trying to fill it, he lets it float on the surface, allowing the water to flow through it. "Feel this," he says, handing the basket back to Hiroshi. Hiroshi holds the basket in the water, feeling the current flow through the gaps, the bamboo cool and smooth in his hands. It is a strange sensation, not of struggle, but of harmony, as if the basket and the water are meant to exist together in this way. This is how life is meant to be lived, the Zen Master says. Not by resisting the flow, but by moving with it. Not by trying to control what happens, but by being present for it. They walk back to the hermitage, the bamboo basket empty, but somehow full of a wisdom that Hiroshi has been missing. The Zen Master makes tea, and as they drink, Hiroshi talks about his life, his childhood, his marriage, his love for his fields. He realizes that he has been so busy trying to control the future that he has forgotten to appreciate the present, the beauty of his rice fields at dawn, the sound of his children's laughter, the warmth of his wife's hand in his dot. When Hiroshi leaves the hermitage, the sun is beginning to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. He walks through his fields, but this time he does not see threats. He sees beauty, the way the light catches the rice stalks, the way the wind makes them dance, the promise of abundance in each grain. That night, Hiroshi lies in bed beside Miko, his mind quieter than it has been in years. When worries about the harvest creep in, he imagines the bamboo basket floating on the stream, letting the water flow through. He takes a deep breath and lets the worries go. Just as the water flows through the gaps, in the weeks that follow, Hiroshi begins to practice this letting go. He still tends to his fields carefully, lovingly, but he stops obsessing over what might go wrong. He spends more time with his family, laughing with his children, talking with Miko, enjoying the simple pleasures that he has been missing. When a small storm comes, flattening a corner of his field, he feels the old panic rise, but then he remembers the bamboo basket and he lets it go. He accepts the loss, works to repair the damage, and moves on. When the price of rice does drop at market, he adjusts his plans, finds new ways to make ends meet, and trusts that things will work out. And slowly, imperceptibly, Hiroshi begins to find peace. He realizes that the bamboo basket was never meant to hold water, and that he was never meant to control life. Both are meant to flow, to change, to exist in the beautiful, messy uncertainty of the present moment. This is the lesson for all of us who struggle with the need to control, who exhaust ourselves trying to hold onto the fleeting illusion of certainty. Life is like water fluid, ever-changing, impossible to contain. Our job is not to control it, but to flow with it, to adapt, to trust that we can handle whatever comes our way. Let's practice this together now. Close your eyes if you haven't already, and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it for a moment, then exhale slowly through your mouth. As you breathe, bring to mind something you have been trying to control, maybe a situation, a person, an outcome. Notice how it feels in your body, the tension in your shoulders, the tightness in your chest, the furrow in your brow. This is the cost of trying to hold water in a bamboo basket. Now imagine taking that finger problem, a worry, a desire, placing it in a bamboo basket. See the basket clearly, with its wide gaps and flexible strips. Now, imagine dipping that basket into a stream, letting the water flow through it. Watch as whatever you placed in the basket begins to slip through the gaps, not because you're failing, but because that's the nature of the basket, the nature of life. Feel the sense of release that comes with this. You don't have to hold on anymore. You don't have to control. You can let go, let flow, let life be as it is. Notice how your body responds to this image. Maybe a softening in your shoulders, a deepening in your breath, a sense of lightness in your chest. This is the feeling of surrender, not to defeat, but to the natural flow of life. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, say silently to yourself, I let go, I flow, I trust. This is the practice of Zen, not control, but surrender, not certainty, but trust, not holding on, but letting go. It is a practice that takes time, that requires patience, but it is always available to you in every moment, with every breath. As we prepare to move on to the next story, carry this image with you, the image of the bamboo basket floating on the stream, letting the water flow through. Remember that you, too, can let go, can flow, can trust in the natural rhythm of life. Take one more deep breath, savoring the feeling of surrender. Then let it go, knowing that the stream of life will carry you exactly where you need to be. Let the image of the bamboo basket floating on the stream stay with you as we drift into the next chapter. Feel your breath continue to flow like water, unforced and natural. And notice how your body has settled even deeper into if each passing moment peels away another layer of tension. It is in this quiet openness that we meet a philosopher whose mind is tangled in questions, and a flower that holds an answer beyond words. The season has turned to early spring, though the air still carries the crisp edge of winter's lingering touch. In a valley nestled between mist-shrouded mountains, a grove of bamboo sways gently in the breeze, their slender trunks creaking softly like old friends sharing secrets. Sunlight filters through the leaves in dappled patterns, casting, shifting shadows on the moss-covered ground. Somewhere nearby, a stream gurgles over smooth stones, its melody blending with the rustle of bamboo leaves to create a symphony of stillness. At the edge of this grove, a man sits cross-legged on a flat rock, his brow furrowed in concentration. His name is Koji, a philosopher from the city who has spent years studying the great works of literature, science, and philosophy. He is tall and thin, with a beard that has grown wild from weeks of wandering, and his eyes, though bright with intelligence, are clouded by a deep weariness. Koji is haunted by a single question, one that has consumed his thoughts for years. What is the meaning of life? He has read every book, attended every lecture, debated with every scholar who would engage him. He has analyzed the question from every angle, broken it down into its component parts, examined it under the microscope of his intellect, and yet the answer remains as elusive as a butterfly dancing just out of reach. What is the purpose of our existence? Why do we suffer? What happens when we die? What is the nature of truth, of love, of reality itself? These questions spin through Koji's mind like a whirlwind, leaving him dizzy and disoriented. They keep him awake at night, distract him from simple pleasures, and create a chasm between him and the world around him. He sees people laughing, working, loving, and wonders how they can be so blind to the fundamental mysteries of existence. Don't they realize how precious, how fragile, how utterly inexplicable life is? One afternoon, as Koji sits in a village tea house, listening to the locals talk of harvests and festivals, a traveler mentions a teacher who lives in the mountains, a man known simply as the Buddha, who is said to have found enlightenment under a tree and now shares his wisdom with all who seek it. He doesn't speak much, the traveler says, sipping his tea, but those who listen with their hearts, not just their ears, say he answers the deepest questions without uttering a word. Koji scoffs. That's impossible. Questions require answers. Wisdom requires words. But something in the traveler's tone stirs a spark of curiosity in him. That night, he packs his few belongings and sets off toward the mountains. Determined to confront this so-called Buddha and demand answers, the journey takes 3 days, through dense forests and over rocky passes. On the third evening, as the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Koji reaches a small clearing where a group of people sit in a circle around an old man. The man is sitting beneath a large fig tree, his posture relaxed but alert, his eyes closed as if in meditation. He is not particularly imposing short, with a shaven head and a simple robe, but there is a presence about him, a quiet radiance that makes Koji's heart race. This, he knows, must be the Buddha. Koji approaches, his footsteps crunching on the dry leaves that cover the ground. The others in the circle look up, but the Buddha remains still, his breathing slow and steady. Master Koji says, his voice tight with frustration and anticipation, I have traveled far to ask you a question. What is the meaning of life? The Buddha opens his eyes, which are as calm and deep as a mountain lake. He looks at Koji without speaking, then slowly reaches beside him and plucks a single lotus flower from a vase. He holds it up, gently turning it in his fingers, so that the soft pink petals catch the last rays of the setting sun. Koji frowns, confused. What is this? I asked for answers, not flowers. What does this mean? The Buddha says nothing. He just holds the flower, his eyes soft, with a wisdom that Koji cannot fathom. Koji's frustration boils over. Do you mock me? I have dedicated my life to seeking truth, and you respond with silence and a flower. What kind of teacher are you? Still, the Buddha does not speak. He simply continues to hold the flower, his gaze steady and compassionate. One of the other disciples, a young monk named Ananda, leans toward Koji and whispers, the master has answered you. Can't you see? Koji turns to him, anger flashing in his eyes. What answer? There was no answer. Just a flower, just silence. Ananda smiles gently. That is the answer. The meaning of life is not in words, not in concepts, not in the endless chatter of the mind. It is in this, He gestures to the flower in the Buddha's hand, in the beauty of the present moment, in the simple act of seeing, of being, of experiencing life as it is, not as we think it should be. Koji stares at the flower, then at the Buddha, then at the setting sun painting the sky. For a moment, his mind stops racing. The questions that have haunted him for years fall silent, and in that silence, he begins to see. He sees the way the light plays on the petals of the flower, the way the Buddha's fingers cradle it with such tenderness, the way the air smells of jasmine and earth, the way his own heart beats in his chest, steady, alive, present. In that moment, Koji understands that he has been looking for the meaning of life in all the wrong places. He has been so busy analyzing, dissecting, intellectualizing that he has forgotten to live to experience the miracle of existence with his senses, not just his mind. This is a truth that modern neuroscience has begun to explore. When we engage in excessive thinking, especially about abstract questions like the meaning of life, we activate the default mode network, the same part of the brain associated with rumination and overthinking. This network is useful for planning, reflecting, and making sense of the past, but when it becomes overactive, it can disconnect us from the present moment, creating a sense of separation from ourselves and the world around us. In contrast, when we engage in direct sensory experience, looking at a flower, listening to a stream, feeling the sun on our skin, we activate the brain's task-positive network, which is associated with focus, presence, and engagement with the world. This network helps us feel connected, grounded, and alive. Koji has been trapped in his default mode network, his mind spinning in endless loops of thought, disconnected from the present moment. The Buddha's silent offering of the flower is an invitation to switch networks, to step out of his head and into his senses, to experience life directly rather than through the filter of his thoughts. The Buddha finally lowers the flower, his eyes still fixed on Koji. The flower does not ask for meaning, he says, his voice soft but clear. It just blooms. The river does not ask for purpose, it just flows. The sun does not demand understanding, it just shines. And so it is with life, Koji. It is not a question to be answered. It is a mystery to be experienced. Koji sits down on the ground, his legs giving way beneath him. He feels a wave of emotion wash over him, grief for all the years he has wasted in fruitless questioning, gratitude for this moment of clarity, peace for finally letting go of the need to know. For the next 3 days, Koji stays with the Buddha and his disciples. He does not ask any more questions. Instead, he listens to the wind in the trees, to the laughter of the disciples, to the silence between breaths. He helps gather firewood, fetch water, prepare meals, focusing on the sensation of his hands on wood, on water, on food. He watches the sunrise and sunset, noticing the way the light changes, the way the colors shift, the way each moment is unique and irreplaceable. On the 4th day, as he sits beside the Buddha watching the lotus flowers open in the morning sun, Koji speaks for the first time since his outburst. "I think I understand now," he says. "The meaning of life is not something we can grasp with our minds. It's something we can only feel with our hearts, something we can only know by being fully alive, fully present in each moment." The Buddha smiles and holds up another lotus flower, this one just beginning to bloom. Koji smiles back. "Thank you," he says, "for the flower, for the silence, for helping me remember how to see." When Koji leaves the mountain, he feels like a different man. His mind is quieter, but his senses are sharper. He notices the way the light reflects off the the way food tastes on his tongue, the way a child's laughter sounds like music. He still has questions, but they no longer haunt him. They are like birds passing through the sky, to observe, but not worth chasing. He returns to the city, but he does not return to his old life. Instead of spending his days in libraries and lecture halls, he spends them walking in parks, talking to strangers, sitting by the river and watching the world go by. People who knew him before are puzzled by the change. Where is the great philosopher? They ask. What happened to your questions? Koji just smiles and points to a flower growing in a crack in the sidewalk. The answers are all around us, he says. We just need to stop talking long enough to hear them. This is the lesson for all of us who get caught in the trap of overthinking, who believe that understanding comes only through analysis and intellectualizing. There are truths that cannot be put into words, mysteries that cannot be solved by the mind, experiences that can only be known through direct perception. Life is not a problem to be solved. It is a gift to be experienced. Let's practice this together. Now, close your eyes if you haven't already, and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it for a moment, then exhale slowly through your mouth as you breathe. Bring to mind a question that has been troubling you, a question that you have been turning over and over in your mind, trying to find an answer. It might be a big question, like the meaning of life, or a smaller one, like what to do about a difficult situation. Notice how this question feels in your body, the tension in your forehead, the tightness in your jaw, the restlessness in your thoughts. This is the weight of overthinking, of trying to solve a mystery with the limited tools of the mind. Now, open your eyes if they were closed and look around you. Find something simple to focus on: a plant, a piece of furniture, a shadow on the wall. It doesn't matter what it is. Just pick something that catches your attention. Don't now really see it, not with your thinking mind, but with your senses. Notice its color, the exact shade, the way the light hits it, the variations in hue. Notice its texture, smooth or rough, hard or soft, shiny or dull. Notice its shape, the curves, the angles, the way it occupies space. As you do this, notice what happens to your question. It might not disappear completely, but it will likely fade into the background, replaced by the direct experience of seeing. This is the power of shifting from thinking to sensing, from analyzing to experiencing. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, say silently to yourself, I don't need to understand, I just need to experience. This is the practice of Zen, not seeking answers, but seeking presence. Not trying to figure out life, but trying to live it. It is a practice that can be done in any moment, with any object, simply by shifting your attention from your thoughts to your senses. As we prepare to move on to the next story, carry this practice with you, the ability to step out of your head and into your senses, to trade the restlessness of overthinking for the peace of direct experience. Remember that the most important truths in life are not found in words, but in the silence between them. Not in thoughts, but in the presence that allows them to arise and fall. Take one more deep breath, savoring the simplicity of this moment, then let it go, knowing that life is happening right now, all around you, waiting to be experienced. Carry the stillness of the lotus flower in your heart as we turn to the next chapter. Let your breath soften like sunlight through leaves, and notice how the practice of presence has begun to settle into your bones, not as an achievement, but as a quiet knowing. It is in this space between effort and ease that we meet a craftsman whose hands are shivered with frustration, and a broken bowl that holds the beauty of imperfection. Summer has wrapped the valley in its humid embrace. The bamboo grove stands, dense and green, each leaf glistening with sweat like dew that catches the midday sun. Cicadas sing in shrill chorus from the treetops, their relentless rhythm matching the pulse of heat that rises from the earth. In the villages, people seek shelter under straw hats and bamboo awnings, fanning themselves with paper fans painted with cranes and pine trees. The air smells of jasmine and damp earth, heavy with the promise of afternoon rain that never quite arrives. In a small workshop at the edge of the village, a man kneels before a pottery wheel, his brow dripping with sweat. His name is Kenji, a master potter whose vases and bowls are prized throughout the province. His hands calloused, yet precise, move with practiced grace, shaping a lump of clay into a delicate bowl. But there is tension in his shoulders, a tightness around his eyes that betrays his concentration. Kenji is chasing perfection. For months, he has been trying to create the perfect tea bowl, thin as an eggshell, smooth as polished stone, with a glaze that shimmers like moonlight on water. He has destroyed dozens of near-perfect pieces, each rejected for flaws invisible to most eyes. A tiny bubble in the glaze, a slight asymmetry in the curve, a hairline crack too fine to feel. This one will be different, he mutters, guiding the clay with steady hands. This one will be perfect. His wife, Yuki, appears in the doorway, holding a wooden tray with a cup of green tea. "You've been at it since dawn," she says, her voice soft with concern. "Come inside and rest. The clay will wait." Kenji shakes his head, not looking up. "I'm close, Yuki. Just a little more," Yuki sighs. She has watched this obsession grow, consuming her husband bit by bit. He used to laugh while he worked, whistling old songs as the clay took shape. Now he barely speaks, his days consumed by endless refinements and ruthless self-criticism. He has stopped eating properly, stopped sleeping, stopped noticing the world beyond his workshop. "What will you do if it's never perfect?" she asks gently. Kenji's hands falter. The bowl wobbles on the wheel, developing a slight crooked that sends a flash of anger through him. He slams his fist down on the workbench, sending tools clattering to the floor. "It has to be perfect," he shouts. "Otherwise, what's the point?" The clay bowl collapses into a shapeless lump. Kenji stares at it, his chest heaving with frustration and despair. This is his life now, endless cycle of creation and destruction, hope and disappointment. Neuroscience would later recognize this pattern as the toxic dance of maladaptive perfectionism, where the brain's reward system becomes desensitized to good enough, triggering a relentless cascade of cortisol that keeps the prefrontal cortex in a state of perpetual alarm. That night, Kenji sits alone in his workshop, surrounded by the ghosts of his failures. He picks up a nearly flawless bowl, running his finger over a microscopic imperfection in the glaze. His mind races with self-criticism. "You call yourself a master. A child could do better. No wonder the temple rejected your offering." These thoughts activate the same neural pathways as physical pain, creating a feedback loop of suffering that only intensifies his drive to perfection. Yuki finds him there hours later, staring at the wall. "There's a monk visiting the temple," she says, sitting beside him. "They say he was once a potter before he took vows. People come from all over to seek his advice." Kenji scoffs. What could a monk know about pottery? But something in Yuki's eyes, her quiet concern, makes him pause. "Where is this temple?" "It's 3 days' journey into the mountains," she says. "The one with the golden pavilion, The next morning, Kenji packs a small bag and sets off, leaving his workshop behind. The journey is difficult, winding through dense forests and up steep paths, but he barely notices. His mind is fixed on the perfect bowl, on the possibility that this monk might hold the secret he's been searching for. The temple perches on a mountainside, its golden roof glinting in the sunlight. A garden of carefully arranged stones and raked gravel leads to the entrance, where an old monk in grey robes waits, as if expecting him. "You seek perfection," the monk says, without preamble, as Kenji approaches. "I seek to understand why I cannot achieve it," Kenji replies, bowing respectfully. "My hands are skilled, my materials finest, yet I cannot create what my heart desires." The monk smiles. "Come, I have something to show you." He leads Kenji into a small room lined with shelves holding the most extraordinary pottery Kenji has ever seen. Vases with intentional asymmetry, bowls with deliberately uneven glazes, cups with visible fingerprints preserved in the clay. But what shocks Kenji most are the pieces that have been broken and repaired. Their cracks filled with a glittering gold lacquer that transforms their flaws into beautiful patterns. "What is this?" he asks, running his finger along a repaired teacup where the golden lines resemble rivers on a map. "This is kintsugi," the monk explains, "the art of repairing broken pottery with gold. We do not hide our mistakes, Kenji. We honor them. We make them part of the story." Kenji frowns. "But why would anyone value a broken bowl over a perfect one?" "Because perfection is an illusion," the monk says, pouring tea into the repaired cup. "Look closely at nature. A cherry blossom is perfect in its imperfection, no two petals alike, each flower falling before its time. A bamboo forest sways in the wind, its strength coming not from rigidity but from flexibility. Even the moon is only fully perfect one night a month, yet we find beauty in all its phases." He gestures to Kenji's hands. "Your problem is not with your pottery. It is with your refusal to see beauty in what is. You are like a man who rejects the moon because it is not full, or a flower because it will someday wilt." Kenji opens his mouth to argue, but the monk continues. "Neuroscience now confirms what we have known for centuries. Your brain has become trapped in a cycle where only perfection triggers reward chemicals, while anything less activates your threat response," he says, as if reading Kenji's thoughts. "This is why you feel physical pain at the sight of imperfection. It is literally activating your brain's pain centers." The monk leads Kenji to a workbench in the temple garden where a simple pottery wheel sits beneath a cherry tree. "Sit," he says. "Make me a bowl, but this time do not pursue perfection, pursue presence." Kenji hesitates, then kneels at the wheel. As his hands touch the clay, he feels the old tension rising, the urge to control, to demand, to perfect. But he remembers the kintsugi bowls, their golden cracks shining like stars. "Feel the clay," the monk says softly. "Notice its texture, its weight, its response to your touch. Do not fight its imperfections, work with them." Kenji breathes deeply, focusing on the sensation of clay between his fingers rather than the image of the perfect bowl in his mind. He feels a bubble form in the clay and, instead of starting over, incorporates it into the design, creating a small indentation that catches the light. When the bowl is finished, it is slightly lopsided, with visible marks of his fingers and that intentional indentation. "It's imperfect," Kenji says, surprised by the absence of his usual disappointment. "It is authentic," the monk corrects him, "and in authenticity we find a deeper kind of perfection." This, modern psychology would confirm is the transformative power of self-compassion. According to researcher Kristen Neff, self-compassion involves 3 elements: self-kindness instead of self-judgment, recognition of common humanity instead of isolation, and mindfulness instead of over-identification with negative emotions. By embracing his flaws and recognizing them as part of the shared human experience, Kenji has taken the first step toward breaking free from his perfectionism prison. Over the next week, Kenji stays at the temple, learning the art of kintsugi and the philosophy behind it. He repairs some of his own broken pieces, watching in wonder as the golden lines transform failure into something new and beautiful. He practices mindfulness meditation, learning to observe his critical thoughts without being consumed by them, technique that research shows can reduce the anxiety associated with perfectionism by up to 40% on the day he leaves. Kenji presents the monk with the lopsided bowl he made. "I call it beginning," he says. The monk examines it carefully, then smiles. It is perfect in its imperfection, just like all of us. When Kenji returns to his workshop, something has shifted. He still strives for excellence, but he no longer demands perfection. He keeps a kintsugi bowl on his workbench as a reminder of the beauty in flaws. He notices how his hands move more freely, how he whistles while he works again, how the pressure in his chest has lifted. His new pieces, slightly imperfect, intentionally human, begin to attract attention. A wealthy merchant commissions a set of kintsugi cups, saying they tell a story no perfect cup ever could. The temple that once rejected his work now displays his largest vase, with its intentional asymmetries and visible maker's marks. Yuki watches him with quiet joy, seeing her husband return to her not as a slave to perfection, but as a man who has learned to dance with imperfection. This is the lesson for all of us trapped in the cycle of perfectionism. Our flaws are not failures, but fingerprints, unique marks that tell our stories. The ancient art of kintsugi reminds us that what breaks can be made whole again, often more beautiful for having been broken. Modern psychology reinforces this wisdom, showing that self-compassion, not self-criticism, is the path to both excellence and peace. Let's practice this together. Now, close your eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose. As you exhale, let your shoulders drop. Bring to mind something you've criticized yourself for, a mistake, a flaw, an imperfection you've been trying to fix. Notice how this self-criticism feels in your body, the tightness in your chest, the tension in your jaw, the heavy feeling in your stomach. Now, imagine taking that imperfection and treating it like a kintsugi artist would. Visualize gentle hands applying golden lacquer to your flaw, transforming it into something beautiful and meaningful. See how this changes your relationship to it, not as something to hide or fix, but as part of your unique story. Take another deep breath, and as you exhale, repeat silently, "I am more than my imperfections. They make me whole." This is the practice of radical acceptance, not settling for less, but embracing more of yourself, more of life, more of the beauty that exists beyond the illusion of perfection. It is a practice that takes courage, but one that research shows can reduce anxiety, improve relationships, and even enhance performance by freeing us from the paralyzing fear of imperfection. As we prepare to move on, carry this image with you, the kintsugi bowl, its cracks shining with gold, stronger and more beautiful for having been broken. Remember that you too are a work of kintsugi art, your wounds and flaws part of what make you uniquely precious. Take one last deep breath, feeling the truth of this in your bones. then let it go, knowing that your imperfections are not mistakes, but the very places where your light shines through. Let the golden light of the kintsugi bowl stay with you as we turn to the next chapter. Feel your breath flow like wind through grass, natural, unforced, carrying away any remaining tension. Notice how your body has softened into the present moment, as if each story has gently loosened another knot of resistance. It is in this open space that we meet a mother whose heart is tangled in threads of worry, and a kite that teaches her the freedom of letting go. Autumn has painted the valley in fiery colors. Maple trees stand like torches along the hillsides, their leaves blazing red and orange against the crisp blue sky. The air carries the sharp, sweet scent of ripe persimmons and burning cedar, and in the mornings, a thin layer of frost clings to the grass, glittering like diamonds in the rising sun. Children laugh as they chase each other through the fallen leaves, their voices echoing like wind chimes, while adults gather in the village square to discuss the upcoming harvest festival. On the edge of this activity, a woman sits on a wooden bench beneath an ancient oak tree, watching her son, Taro, play with other children in the field below. Her name is Maya, and her face is lined with a quiet worry that has settled there like a permanent shadow. Taro is 8 years old, with wild black hair and his mother's bright eyes, and he is running as fast as his legs can carry him, his arms outstretched like wings. Maya's heart tightens as she watches him. He'll trip, she thinks. He'll fall and hurt himself. He's too reckless, too trusting, too free. These thoughts have become a constant companion, a low hum of anxiety that never quite fades. She worries about Taro's future with the same intensity a gardener might worry about a delicate flower, fearing every storm, every pest, every change in the weather. Taro wants to be an artist. He spends hours drawing in the dirt with a stick, or painting on scraps of paper with berry juice, creating worlds full of dragons and warriors and flying ships. Someday, I'm going to travel to the capital and study with the master painters, he tells her, his eyes shining. Maya smiles and nods, but inside, her heart sinks. Artists starve, she thinks. They live difficult lives, subject to the whims of wealthy patrons and the cruelty of critics. She wants stability for her son's security, respectability, a life free from hardship. She has mapped out his future in her mind. First, he will study with the village scholar, then apprentice with the merchant in the next town, then eventually take over the business and marry a nice girl from a good family. It is a safe path, a sensible path, a path that will protect him from the storms of life. But Taro's path seems to be leading elsewhere, toward color and chaos and uncertainty, and Maya does not know how to let him go. Neuroscience tells us that Maya's worry is rooted in her brain's ancient survival mechanisms. The amygdala, that primitive part of the brain responsible for detecting threats, sees Taro's independence as dangerous, triggering a flood of stress hormones that make her heart race and her mind race with worst-case scenarios. This is the same maternal instinct that protected our ancestors' children from predators. But in modern life, it often misfires, turning normal development into perceived threats. Attachment theory explains that Maya's struggle reflects a common tension in parenting: the need to protect versus the need to release. Psychologist John Bowlby found that healthy attachment involves a balance of proximity and autonomy, providing a secure base from which children can explore the world. When parents become overly protective, they inadvertently limit their child's ability to develop resilience and self-reliance, creating the very vulnerability they fear. One afternoon, as Taro begs to go to the harvest festival in the next village, alone with his friends, Maya's anxiety reaches a breaking point. "No," she says sharply, more harshly than she intends. "It's too far, too crowded, too dangerous. You're too young." Taro's face falls. "But all the other boys are going," he says, his voice trembling. "I'm not a baby." "You're my son," Maya replies, her voice softening with guilt. "I just want to keep you safe." That night, Maya lies awake, listening to Taro's quiet snoring in the next room. She feels a deep sadness, a sense that she is failing him, somehow that her love has become a cage, her protection a prison. She thinks of her own mother, who was also overprotective, and how she had dreamed of breaking free. Now she is doing the same to her son. The next morning, Maya visits the village elder, a wise woman who has raised 7 children of her own. "I don't know how to stop worrying," Maya admits, sitting across from her in the elder's sunlit cottage. "Every time he's out of my sight, I imagine the worst." The elder pours tea into small ceramic cups, her hands steady and sure. "I used to be the same way with my youngest daughter," she says. "She was always climbing trees, wandering into the woods, getting into trouble. I used to lie awake at night, imagining all the terrible things that could happen to her." "What changed?" Maya asks. The elder smiles. "I met a Zen monk at the temple. He asked me a question. Do you trust your child, or do you trust your fear?" Maya thinks about this. "I trust Taro," she says, "but the world is dangerous." "The world is worldly," the elder corrects gently. "It has dangers, yes, but it also has beauty and joy and lessons that can only be learned by falling and getting back up. You cannot protect him from life, Maya. All you can do is prepare him for Itand, then trust that he will find his way." She leans forward, her eyes warm with understanding. "There's a kite festival at the temple this weekend. The monk who taught me will be there. Perhaps you should go, not with Taro alone. Sometimes we need to learn lessons for ourselves before we can teach them to others." On Saturday morning, Maya walks to the temple, her steps light with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. The temple grounds are filled with people, laughing and talking as they prepare for the festival. Children run around with colorful kites shaped like birds and dragons, while adults sit on blankets, sharing food and stories in a quiet corner of the garden. Maya sees an old monk sitting on a wooden bench, watching a young boy fly a kite. The kite is a vibrant red, shaped like a phoenix, and it dances and dips in the wind, pulled this way and that by invisible forces. The monk's face is calm, his eyes following the kite's movements with a quiet fascination. Maya approaches him, her heart beating a little faster. "Are you the monk who spoke with the village elder?" she asks. The monk turns to her, his eyes crinkling with a smile. "I am, and you are the mother who worries." Maya nods, surprised by his directness. "How did you know?" "Your eyes tell the story," he says. "They look for danger in every shadow, for threats in every breeze. Come, help me with this kite." He hands her a spool of string, its wooden handle smooth from years of use. The phoenix kite soars above them, its red tail streaming behind it, like a banner. "Feel the tension in the string," the monk says. "Not too tight, not too loose. Just enough to guide, not enough to control." Maya holds the spool, feeling the string pull against her hands as the kite tugs at the wind. It is a strange sensation, this balance between holding on and letting go. "It's like parenting," she says, more to herself than to the monk. Exactly like parenting, he agrees. Too tight, and the string breaks. Too loose, and the kite crashes. But with the right balance, he gestures to the phoenix, which climbs higher, riding a thermal updraft. It can reach heights you never imagined. As they watch, a sudden gust of wind catches the kite, pulling it sharply to the left. The string tightens, then snap it breaks. Maya gasps, expecting the kite to plummet to the ground, but instead of falling, the phoenix rises, freed from the string's constraints, soaring higher and higher, riding the wind with a grace it never had before. It's flying better now, Maya says, amazed. Because it's free, the monk says. Sometimes our attempts to control things, people, situations, futures actually limit them. We think we're protecting them, but we're really weighing them down. He looks at Maya, his eyes deep with wisdom. Your son is like that kite. You're holding the string too tightly, afraid to let him rise. But children are not meant to stay close to the ground, Maya. They are meant to soar. Maya thinks about Taro, his dreams of being an artist, his curiosity, his courage. She thinks about how her worry has become a weight for both of them. She thinks about the phoenix kite, climbing higher and higher, no longer constrained by the string that was meant to guide it. Why does it feel so scary? She asks, her voice trembling. Because love and fear are close cousins, the monk says. Both make your heart race, both make you want to hold on tightly. But love, true love, is not about holding on. It's about setting free. This aligns with what psychologists call secure attachment. Research shows that children whose parents provide a secure base offering love and support while encouraging independence develop stronger self-esteem, better social skills, and greater resilience than those whose parents are either overly protective or emotionally distant. The brain's prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and emotional regulation, develops more fully when children are allowed to take age-appropriate risks and learn from their mistakes. The monk hands Maya a small kite. It's paper-thin and delicate, painted with a simple blue design that looks like the sky. Fly it, he says. But this time, pay attention to your hands and your heart. Maya takes the kite, her fingers brushing against the paper's soft surface. She walks to an open space, unfolds the kite, and runs into the wind. It lifts off easily, climbing into the sky with a gentle tug. For a moment, Maya holds the string tightly, her old fears rising up. But then she remembers the phoenix, soaring, free, and she loosens her grip. The kite responds immediately, climbing higher, dancing more freely in the wind. Maya feels a sense of lightness in her chest, a release she hasn't felt in years. She lets out more string, watching as the kite becomes a small blue dot against the sky. It's beautiful, she says, surprised by the tears in her eyes. Not as beautiful as the trust it represents, the monk says, standing beside her. Trust in the wind, trust in the kite, trust in the process. Over the next hour, Maya flies the kite, practicing the balance between holding on and letting go. Each time she feels the urge to pull it back, to keep it close. She reminds herself of the phoenix and of Toro. She thinks about all the things he will learn when she's not there to protect him. How to read a map, how to negotiate with strangers, how to pick himself up when he falls. She realizes that these are the lessons that will make him strong, not her constant worrying. When Maya returns home, Taro runs to meet her, his face lighting up when he sees the kite in her hands. Can we fly it together? He asks. Maya kneels down, putting her arms around him. Yes, she says. But first, I need to tell you something. You can go to the harvest festival with your friends, and when you're older, if you still want to go to the capital to study art, I'll help you pack your bags. Taro's eyes widen. Really? Really? Maya says, smiling through her tears. I trust you, Taro, and I trust that whatever path you choose, you'll find your way. That evening, as they fly the kite together in the field behind their house, Maya feels a sense of peace she hasn't felt in years. Taro holds the spool, laughing as the kite dances in the wind, while Maya stands beside him, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. When a gust of wind pulls the kite sharply, Taro lets out more string without hesitation, trusting that it will find its balance. Maya thinks about the monk's words. Love is not about holding on, it's about setting free. She realizes that this truth applies not just to parenting, but to all relationships, to our love for our partners, our friends, our parents, even ourselves. We cannot control the people we love any more than we can control the wind or the weather. All we can do is love them, prepare them, and then trust that they will rise. In the months that follow, Maya practices letting go. She lets Taro walk to school alone, and when he comes home with a scraped knee, she cleans it and kisses it better. But she doesn't forbid him from running. She lets him join the village art class, even though it means he has less time to study arithmetic. She listens to his dreams without trying to change them, and helps him solve his problems without taking over. And slowly, imperceptibly, Maya's worry fades, replaced by a deep trust, not just in Taro, but in life itself. She learns to focus on the present moment, on the sound of Taro's laughter, on the warmth of the sun on her face, on the simple joys that make life worth living. She realizes that the future will unfold as it will, and while she can prepare for it, she cannot control it. And that is okay. This is the lesson for all of us who struggle with the need to control the people we love, whether it's our children, our partners, our friends, or even our own future selves. We are not meant to hold tight, to micromanage, to protect from every possible harm. We are meant to love fiercely, to guide gently, and then to trust courageously. Like the kite with a broken string, those we love may surprise us, rising higher, flying farther than we ever imagined possible. Let's practice this together. Now, close your eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose. As you exhale, let your shoulders drop, releasing any tension you're holding. Bring to mind someone you love, someone you worry about, someone you try to protect, someone you find it hard to let go of. It might be a child, a partner, a friend, or even yourself. Notice how this worry feels in your body, the tightness in your chest, the knot in your stomach, the tension in your jaw. This is the feeling of holding the string too tightly. Now, imagine that person as a kite, soaring in the sky. See them clearly, their face, their smile, their unique qualities. Notice how beautiful they are, how capable, how full of potential. Imagine holding the kite string in your hands. Feel the tension, the urge to pull them closer, to keep them safe. Now, slowly, gently, begin to let out the string. Feel it slip through your fingers, releasing, loosening, until there's only a light connection between you. Watch as the kite rises higher, free to dance in the wind, free to explore, free to be. Notice how this feels in your body, a softening, a lightening, a sense of peace. This is the feeling of trust. Take another deep breath, and as you exhale, say silently, I love you, and I let you go. I trust you, and I trust life. This is the practice of mindful letting go, not indifference, but faith, not abandonment, but empowerment. It is a practice that research shows can reduce anxiety, improve relationships, and increase resilience, both for ourselves and for those we love. As we prepare to move on, carry this image with you: the kite, soaring freely in the sky, connected but not constrained, guided but not controlled. Remember that love, at its best, is not a prison but a bridge away to support those we love as they cross into their own lives. Take one last deep breath, feeling the truth of this in your heart, then let it go, knowing that in letting go, we often find what we were searching for all along. Let the image of the soaring kite settle in your bones as we turn to the next chapter. Feel your breath move like wind through a valley, deep, resonant, carrying the weight of what needs to be released. Notice how your body has become a vessel for stillness, each story carving out more space for peace. It is in this hollow place that we meet a man whose heart is filled with the noise of anger, and a valley that teaches him the silence beneath the storm. Winter has returned to the mountains, wrapping the peaks in a thick blanket of snow that glows blue in the twilight. The air is sharp and clear, biting at exposed skin but carrying sound with extraordinary clarity. Each footstep, each bird call, each breath hanging in the air like a crystal. Deep in the valley, a river flows beneath a layer of ice, its current a low, steady hum that vibrates through the earth. Pine trees stand sentinel along the slopes, their branches heavy with snow, their scent sharp and resinous in the cold air. On a narrow path that winds along the valley floor, a man walks with purpose, his boots crunching on the packed snow. His name is Takeshi, and his face is set in a hard line, his jaw tight with a tension that has lived in his body for months. In his hands, he carries a walking stick, but he grips it so tightly his knuckles are white, as if he might strike something or someone at any moment. Takeshi is angry. 6 months ago, his business partner, Hiro, embezzled funds from their company and disappeared, leaving Takeshi to face bankruptcy, lawsuits, and the judgment of friends and family. "How could you be so naive?" they asked. "How could you not see this coming?" The words sting, but not as much as the betrayal itself. Hiro had been his friend since childhood. They'd grown up together, shared dreams, celebrated each other's weddings. Takeshi trusted him with his livelihood, his reputation, his heart. Now, that trust lies in ruins, and in its place grows a poison, anger that simmers just beneath the surface, flaring at the smallest provocation. He yells at his employees, he snaps at his wife, he lies awake at night, replaying their conversations, imagining what he would say to Hiro if he ever found him, what he would do. These ruminations are like a stone in his shoes, small but persistent, making every step painful. Neuroscience reveals that Takeshi's anger is activating his brain's fight-or-flight response, flooding his system with adrenaline and cortisol. The amygdala, that primitive threat detector, has hijacked his prefrontal cortex, leaving him stuck in a loop of reactive emotion. Each time he replays the betrayal, he's effectively giving his brain a dose of stress hormones, reinforcing the neural pathways that keep him trapped in anger. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. The more he thinks about the wrong done to him, the angrier he gets. The angrier he gets, the more he can't stop thinking about it. One afternoon, after a particularly explosive argument with his wife over something trivial, a misplaced key, Takeshi storms out of the house, walking blindly until he finds himself at the base of the mountain. He remembers a monastery tucked away in the valley, a place he visited once as a child with his grandfather. The monks there know how to quiet a restless mind, his grandfather had said. Takeshi scoffs at the memory, but something pulls him upward along the snow-covered path. The monastery appears suddenly, nestled between two cliffs, like a secret. Its wooden gates are covered in snow, but a faint light glows from within, and the sound of chanting drifts on the windlow, rhythmic, soothing. Takeshi hesitates, then pushes open the gate, its hinges creaking like an old man's joints. A monk, in a grey robe, is shoveling snow from the courtyard. He looks up as Takeshi approaches, his eyes calm and unflinching. "You carry a heavy burden," he says, setting down his shovel. "Anger is a stone that grows heavier the longer you hold it." Takeshi bristles. "You don't know what happened to me." "I know it hurts," the monk says. "And I know you're letting it burn you from the inside out. Come, the master would like to speak with you." He leads Takeshi to a small cabin with a stone chimney, where an old monk sits cross-legged on a straw mat, drinking tea. The room is warm, lit by a single oil lamp that casts golden light on the wooden walls. The master gestures to a mat across from him. "Drink," he says, pouring tea into a small cup. "It will help you feel your hands." Takeshi sips the tea, its warmth spreading through his chest. He hadn't realized how cold he was, how tightly he'd been holding himself. "I was betrayed," he says, the words tumbling out before he can stop them. He tells the master everything: the business, the friendship, the betrayal, the anger that won't let go. When he finishes, the master nods slowly. "Let me show you something," he says, standing up. "Bring your tea." It's a short walk. They follow a narrow trail that leads deeper into the valley, the snow crunching beneath their boots. The walls of the valley rise on either side, steep and imposing, their surfaces covered in ice that glimmers like glass. The air feels even colder here, but also somehow alive, as if the mountains themselves are listening. At a clearing where the valley widens, the master stops. "Shout," he says. Takeshi frowns. "What?" "Shout whatever you're feeling," the master says. "Anger, betrayal, pain, let it out." Takeshi hesitates, then lets out a roar. "I hate him. I trusted him, and he betrayed me." His voice echoes off the valley, walls bouncing back at him. "Betrayed me, betrayed me," me fading slowly into silence. The master smiles. "What do you hear?" "An echo," Takeshi says, confused. "Yes," the master says. "And where is it now?" "It's gone." "Will it come back if you don't shout again?" Takeshi thinks. "No, only if I shout again." The master nods. "Your anger is like that, Takeshi. It arises in response to what you send out into the world. Shout, and it returns. Cling to it, and you must keep shouting to hear it. But let it go, and it fades into the silence that was there all along." Takeshi opens his mouth to argue, but the master raises his hand. "Try again. Shout your anger, but this time, watch it as it goes." Takeshi takes a deep breath and shouts again. "I'm hurt. I'm angry. I want justice." Again, the echo returns. "Justice, justice, justice," fading into the distance. This time, Takeshi watches it, notices how it loses strength with each repetition, how it eventually dissolves into the sound of the wind in the pines. "It doesn't last," he says, surprised. "Nothing does," the master says. "Anger is a visitor, not a resident. It comes, it stays for a while, it goes if you let it. But most people feed it, give it a home, let it take over the house. They become so used to the noise, they forget what silence sounds like." This aligns with what psychologists call emotional regulation, the ability to recognize and manage emotions without being consumed by them. Research shows that mindfulness practices, like the one the master is guiding Takeshi through, can help activate the prefrontal cortex, allowing us to observe emotions without reacting to them. This creates a gap between stimulus and response, breaking the cycle of reactive anger. Walk with me, the master says, setting off down the trail, and notice how the valley responds. They walk in silence for a while, the only sounds their footsteps and the wind. When they reach a particularly narrow part of the valley, the master stops. "What do you feel here?" he asks. Takashi looks around. The cliffs rise so steeply on either side he can barely see the sky. "It feels oppressive," he says. "Closed in like your heart when you're angry," the master says. "Tight, confined, no room to breathe." They continue walking until the valley opens up again, the cliffs receding to reveal a wide expanse of sky. "And here?" the master asks. "Open," Takeshi says. "Free, like your heart when you let go," the master says. "Anger is a cliff you build around yourself, Takeshi. You think it protects you, but it only traps you. The question is not how to make the anger go away. It's how to stop building cliffs." As they walk back to the monastery, the master teaches Takeshi a simple practice. When anger arises, to acknowledge it without judgment, to feel it in his body without story, and to let it pass like an echo in a valley. "Anger is energy," he says. "You can let it destroy you, or you can let it teach you. What does this anger want you to know?" That night, Takashi sleeps in a small cell at the monastery, his dreams filled with echoes and open skies. In the morning, he sits with the master in the courtyard, watching the sun rise over the mountains. "I think my anger is trying to tell me I value trust," he says. "That it matters to me deeply." The master nods. "A valuable lesson. Now you can honor that value without being consumed by anger. You can protect your heart without building walls." Takeshi stays at the monastery for 3 days, learning mindfulness practices that help him observe his anger without being swept away by it. He learns to notice the physical sensations, the tightness in his chest, the heat in his face as signals, not commands. He practices breathing into the tension, allowing it to soften, to dissolve, like snow in the sun. On the day he leaves, the master walks with him to the edge of the valley. "Remember the echo," he says. "It is not the shout. It is not you. It is just sound moving through space." Takeshi nods. "I will." As he walks back to the village, Takeshi feels something shifting in him. The anger is still there, but it's no longer in the driver's seat. It's more like a passenger present, but not in control. When he thinks of Hiro, he still feels the sting of betrayal, but he also feels something else. Sadness for the friendship that was lost. Compassion for Hiro's own suffering, whatever it may be, and eventually, even a glimmer of forgiveness, not for Hiro's sake, but for his own. When he arrives home, his wife meets him at the door, her eyes filled with worry and hope. "I'm sorry," he says, before she can speak, "for the way I've been, for letting anger take over." She steps forward, wrapping her arms around him. "I missed you," she says. In the weeks that follow, Takeshi continues the practices he learned at the monastery. When anger arises and it does, he pauses, breathes, and watches it like an echo in a valley. He feels it in his body, acknowledges it, and lets it go. He finds that the more he practices this, the less frequently the anger visits, and the shorter its stay. He begins to rebuild his business, this time with a newfound sense of clarity and purpose. He's more careful with his trust, but not afraid to give it. He reconnects with friends, apologizes for his distance, and listens when they share their own struggles. And sometimes, when he feels the old anger stirring, he drives to the edge of the valley, stands at its mouth, and shouts until his voice is hoarse, then listens as the echo fades into silence. In that silence, he remembers who he is beneath the anger, a man who values trust, who knows how to love, who is capable of healing. This is the lesson for all of us who struggle with anger, with resentment, with the poison of past wrongs. Our emotions are like echoes in a valley. They arise in response to what we send out, but they do not define us. We can choose to feed them, to keep them alive with our attention, or we can let them fade into the silence that is always there, waiting beneath the noise. Let's practice this together now. Close your eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose, filling your lungs completely. Hold it for a moment, then exhale slowly through your mouth, making a soft ah sound as you release. Bring to mind something that angers you, a past wrong, a betrayal, a disappointment. Notice how it feels in your body, the tightness in your chest, the heat in your face, the tension in your jaw. This is the shout, the initial impulse. Now, imagine yourself standing in a vast valley, the walls rising on either side, the sky stretching above. With your next exhale, send that anger out into the valley. Shout it, scream it, let it pour out of you. Listen as the echo returns, bouncing off the walls, repeating the anger back to you. Notice how it sounds familiar, but somehow less powerful, less personal. Watch as the echo fades, growing softer with each repetition, until it dissolves into the silence of the valley. Notice that silence, the vast open space that was there before the shout and remains after the echo is gone. This is your true nature, beneath the anger, beneath the noise. This is the peace that cannot be disturbed, the stillness that remains no matter what echoes through it. Take another deep breath, and as you exhale, say silently to yourself, I am not my anger. I am the valley that holds it, and the silence that outlasts it. This is the practice of mindful observation, not suppressing our emotions, but freeing ourselves from their grip by seeing them for what they are, temporary, impermanent, echoes that cannot harm the valley that holds them. Research shows that this practice can reduce the intensity and duration of anger, activate the brain's parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest response, and increase feelings of calm and control. As we prepare to move on, carry this image with you, the vast, empty valley, capable of holding any shout, any echo, but remaining unchanged by them. Remember that you are this valley, strong, resilient, capable of holding your emotions without being defined by them. Take one last deep breath, feeling the truth of this in your bones, then let it go, knowing that in the silence beneath the noise, you are always home. Let the silence of the valley settle around you as we come to our last story. Feel your breath move like a secret between your body and the air, gentle, necessary, unremarkable, yet miraculous. Notice how each story has woven itself into your awareness, like threads in a tapestry, creating a pattern of stillness. It is in this woven silence that we meet a disciple whose mind is tangled in the biggest question of all, and an elder who knows that the answer has been here all along. Spring has come again, soft and tentative, painting the temple gardens with delicate green shoots pushing through the soil. The air smells of damp earth and plum blossoms, their sweet scent mingling with the sharp temps of incense from the main hall. In the courtyard, a cherry tree stands in full bloom, its petals drifting down like snowflakes whenever the wind stirs. Somewhere, a water fountain trickles, its sound a constant reminder of the present moment. In a small room off the courtyard, an old monk lies on a straw mat, his breathing shallow and slow. His name is Genji, and he has lived at the temple for 80 years, first as a boy, then as a disciple, then as the master. His face is deeply lined, each crease a map of laughter and loss, and his eyes, though dimmed by age, still hold a spark of mischief that belies his frail body. Beside him sits a young monk named Ryo, his posture rigid with grief and urgency. Ryo has studied under Genji for 10 years, soaking up his teachings like a sponge, but there is one question he has never dared to ask until now. He knows his master's time is short, that the opportunity to seek the ultimate truth is slipping away like sand through his fingers. Master, Ryo says, his voice barely above a whisper, there's something I need to know, before it's too late. Genji's eyes flutter open, focusing slowly on Ryo's face. He smiles, a small curve of his lips that causes his cheeks to bunch up like a child's. Ask, my friend, but first, pass me that cup of tea. The one with the jasmine. Ryo hurries to pour the tea, his hands trembling. He hands the cup to Genji, who takes it with shaky hands, savoring the scent before taking a tiny sip. Ah, he says, closing his eyes. Perfect. Now, what troubles your heart? Ryo takes a deep breath, gathering his courage. What is the meaning of life? What is our purpose here? How do we find true happiness? The questions tumble out, years of speculation and study condensed into a few urgent sentences. These are the questions that have kept Ryo awake at night, that have made him debate with fellow monks until dawn, that have driven him to study every sacred text he could find. Neuroscience tells us that Ryo's quest is activating his default mode network, the same brain network associated with overthinking and rumination. This network is designed to help us make sense of our lives, but when it fixates on unanswerable questions, it can create a sense of existential anxiety. The more Ryo thinks about the meaning of life, the more elusive it becomes, triggering a cycle of frustration that only deepens his need for certainty. Genji looks at Ryo, his eyes soft with compassion. He sets the teacup down carefully, then turns his gaze to the window, where a single cherry blossom drifts past. Tell me, Ryo, he says, are you breathing? Ryo blinks, confused. What? Yes, of course I'm breathing. But that's not. Is the sun shining? Genji asks, interrupting him. Ryo looks out the window. Yes, but master, I'm asking about the meaning of life. This is important. Is the tea sweet with jasmine? Genji continues, ignoring Ryo's urgency. Ryo nods, growing frustrated. Yes, but then you have your answer, Genji says, closing his eyes again. Ryo stares at him, disbelief washing over him. That's not an answer. That's just things that are happening. I'm asking about the meaning of it all. Genji opens his eyes, his gaze sharp now, piercing. And I'm telling you that the meaning is in the things that are happening. Ryo, it's in the breath you're taking, in the sun that's shining, in the tea that's sweet on your tongue. You're so busy looking for some grand answer that you're missing the miracle of what's right in front of you. This aligns with the core teachings of mindfulness. Research shows that focusing on present moment experiences activates the brain's prefrontal cortex and insula, regions associated with and emotional regulation. When we're fully present, we bypass the default mode network's tendency to ruminate on the past or future, accessing a sense of peace that exists beyond our thoughts. Genji coughs weakly, then gestures for Ryo to come closer. Ryo leans in, his ear near Genji's mouth. When I was a young monk, just like you, Genji says, his voice barely audible. I spent years searching for enlightenment. I meditated for days on end, fasted until I was weak, traveled to every temple in the land. I thought enlightenment was some grand state, some profound realization that would change everything. He pauses, catching his breath. Then one day, I was chopping wood in the forest, and my axe slipped. As I reached out to catch it, I forgot to be a monk. I forgot to search for enlightenment. I forgot everything but the axe, the tree, the moment. And in that moment I understood. Enlightenment is not something you find. It's something you are when you stop looking. Ryo thinks about this, his mind racing. But that's too simple. Life can't just be breathing and sunshine and tea. There's suffering, there's death, there's injustice. What about all of that? Genji smiles. What about it? Does suffering stop being suffering because you understand its meaning? Does death become less painful because you've labeled it? The only difference between a wise person and a fool is that the wise person knows that the meaning is in the experience itself, not in some story you tell about it. This reflects the Buddhist concept of sunyata, or emptiness, not the absence of meaning, but the understanding that meaning is not fixed or inherent. Modern psychology supports this, with research showing that people who embrace life's uncertainties report higher levels of well-being than those who demand certainty. Genji reaches out, his hand trembling, and touches Ryo's cheek. Do you remember the first time you meditated with me? He asks. Ryo nods. Yes, I couldn't stop thinking. You hit me with your stick. Genji laughs, a weak, wheezing sound. You needed to be awake, not lost in your head. That's the problem with seekers, Ryoya, so busy seeking that you miss the being. He points to the window, where a butterfly has landed on the sill, its wings opening and closing slowly. Look at that butterfly. Does it wonder about the meaning of its short life? Does it worry about what happens when it dies? No, it just flies, Ryo. It just is. Ryo watches the butterfly, its wings iridescent in the sunlight. For a moment, his mind falls silent. He thinks about all the hours he spent debating, analyzing, searching, all the time he's wasted looking for meaning instead of living it. He thinks about his master, lying here on the edge of death, and how peaceful he seems, how connected to the present moment. Am I breathing? Ryo says quietly, repeating Genji's earlier question. Genji smiles. Yes, Ryo, you are breathing, and that is enough. Over the next few hours, Ryo sits with Genji, neither of them speaking much. Ryo fetches water when Genji is thirsty, adjusts his pillow when he's uncomfortable, fans him when the afternoon sun grows warm. Sometimes, Genji points to something: a spider weaving its web, a bird singing, a shadow moving across the floor, and Ryo looks, really looks, letting himself be fully present for each moment as the sun begins to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Genji's breathing grows more labored. He gestures for Ryo to come close. One last thing, he says. Ryo leans in, tears streaming down his face. Yes, master. Don't grieve for me, Genji says, his voice barely a whisper. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be in the breath you take, in the sun on your skin, in the tea you drink. I'll be in the silence between your thoughts, when you finally stop searching and start being. He closes his eyes, his body growing still. Outside, the last of the cherry blossoms fall, and the first stars begin to twinkle in the darkening sky. Ryo sits with him for a long time, watching the rise and fall of Genji's chest until it stops. When he finally stands, he feels a strange sense of peace, not the absence of grief, but the presence of something larger. He walks outside into the cool evening air and looks up at the stars. Am I breathing? He asks the night sky. Yes, he is. In the days and weeks that follow, Ryo continues his life at the temple, but something has changed. He still studies, still meditates, still helps the other monks, but he does it with a newfound sense of presence. When his mind begins to race with questions, he gently redirects his attention to his breath, to the sensation of his feet on the ground, to the sound of the wind in the trees. He finds that the more he practices this, the more he understands what Genji meant. The meaning of life isn't an answer to be found. It's a way of being, a choice to show up for each moment, to be fully alive to the breath, the sunshine, the tea, and even the pain. That other monks notice the change in him. You seem different, they say, more peaceful. Ryo smiles. I'm just breathing, he says. That's all. This is the ultimate lesson for overthinkers. The answer to life's biggest questions isn't found in our thoughts. It's found in the space between them, in the simple, miraculous act of being alive. Whether we're wondering about the meaning of life or just stressed about tomorrow's meeting, the solution is the same. Come back to the breath. Come back to the present moment. Come back to the only thing that's ever real. Let's practice this together. Now, as we bring our journey to a close, close your eyes if you haven't already, and take a deep breath in through your nose. Feel the air fill your lungs, expanding your chest and belly. Hold it for a moment, then exhale slowly through your mouth, releasing any remaining tension. Notice your breath, the sensation of air moving in and out, the rise and fall of your chest, the coolness of the inhale and the warmth of the exhale. This is your anchor, your constant companion, your reminder that you are alive right here, right now. Notice the sounds around you, the hum of a distant appliance, the rustle of leaves, the beating of your own heart. These are not distractions from life, they are life happening right now. In this moment, notice the feeling of your body against the surface beneath you, the weight of your legs, the curve of your back, the way your hands rest. This is your body, your temporary home in this world, perfect in its imperfection. Now, ask yourself Genji's question, am I breathing? The answer is yes. And in that yes, you have everything you need. Take one more deep breath, savoring the miracle of this moment. Then let it go, knowing that you can return to this place of presence anytime you choose, simply by noticing the breath that is always there, waiting for you. As we cross the valleys of these 10 stories, you may have realized, after the tide of overthinking recedes, the mind's shore is naturally clean and calm. A cup must be empty to hold tea. Thoughts must quiet to reveal truth. May these truths fall like morning dew on your heart's lake, rippling through your restless nights until they settle into peace. When tomorrow's sun rises, remember, you need not solve all problems, just breathe, just be. Thank you for sharing this journey from Zen Mind Temple. Good night, traveler. Your dreams be as clear and peaceful as a moon without clouds.